hearing you and Pooja discussing this news break that's just come in. The one thought that occurred to me the moment this news came in is that, look, just a few weeks ago, we were reporting on Rohit Sharma and now Virat Kohli. Does this leave the team rather crippled? That experience seems to be out the door now?
True, Akshita. I mean, it is going to be a team that will go to England without two of your stalwarts. But having said that, if you have been tracing Indian cricket the last year or so, this was coming. Remember, India, after playing two WTC finals, and that for those of our viewers who are not familiar with Test cricket and don't follow the inside outs of Indian cricket, WTC final is roughly like the final of a Test championship. It's a World Cup of Test cricket. So India played the last two finals in the World Test Championship. This time they missed out. They missed out owing to a few poor results that they had at home as well as overseas. So there was already this murmur that maybe it's time now to look beyond these two senior players. And as I was mentioning, it started to happen right after the Australia tour that finished in January. So at that moment, there were discussions within the BCCI top brass as well as the selectors that maybe because this WTC cycle has come to an end, there is a likelihood in the next WTC cycle that India plays, and that starts with this England tour that is going to be starting in June, we may look at a younger team, a newer team to take the challenges. However, the selectors at that time had not thought of having a team without both Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli. As I was mentioning a short while ago, right after that Australia loss, the selectors did have a conversation with Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, and spoke to them about the future. How long do they see themselves playing? And if they, have a long-term future, short-term future, and also at that moment, they were also apprised about the plans that Indian cricket and the BCCI has, which is to look at Test cricket after a Virat Kohli and a Rohit Sharma. But I don't want to club the two of them together because the situation was very different for both of them. I think Rohit was very close to Test retirement. He had made up his mind in Australia. He missed the last Test match in Australia. Of course, then he said that, there is enough time for the England tour and I'll decide. But what I pick up is that he was very close to announcing his retirement in Australia itself. And remember, he's 2 years senior to Virat Kohli. And also in terms of overall impact, Virat had a much bigger impact in Test cricket than Rohit Sharma. So maybe Rohit Sharma had already reached the end. I don't think that was the case with Virat Kohli, which is why now his retirement comes as a massive surprise because everyone thought that England is going to be his litmus test. He would want to continue for a couple more years. He's fit enough to do that. But England is going to be his litmus test. And he's been made aware of that. It's going to be a tour where if he gets runs, he gets a longer rope in Test cricket. He continues in Test cricket. But unfortunately, if it doesn't turn out the way he plans, then England could be his last tour. Maybe preempting that, it is possible that Virat has announced his retirement now.
We're going to talk about that further, about why Virat Kohli has taken this decision right now. Nikhil, just stay with me. Virat Kohli also announcing his retirement put out a very long, very emotional, touching post. And Harshit is standing by from our newsroom to get you some of the highlights of what Virat Kohli has put out in that post. Harshit, over to you.
Right, Akshata. Indeed, it is very emotional what Virat Kohli said, and we'll just take our viewers through what exactly have been his parting words from Test cricket. Doing so with a quiet post, as many would have thought, because these reports were trickling in that Virat could just be nearing his Test retirement. Let's quickly run you through the post, which has instantly gone viral on social media. Virat Kohli taking to Instagram, saying that it's been 14 years since he first wore the baggy blue in Test cricket, and it's something that he never imagined how fruitful this journey would be and the kind of lessons that it is taught to him. He'll carry those lessons for all his life. I just want to quickly skip to para number 3, where he says as he steps away from the format, it's not easy, but he feels it's the right decision to make for him at the moment. He's given everything he had, and that's what we know about Virat Kohli. Always wore his heart on the sleeve, and then says that he's got a heart full of gratitude. It's the format. As we know, Virat Kohli, he's loved playing in this format. It's the format that he's regarded the most. He's always held it right up there, and he says that he leaves with a heart full of gratitude for every game, for the people that he shared the field with, and for every single person who made him feel and that he's seen along the way. He'll always look back at his Test career with a smile. cap number 269. That's what he signs off with. He says 269 signing off. That's Virat Kohli's cap number for those who are unversed. So a quiet retirement. There's no farewell. There's no extravaganza around Virat Kohli's retirement. The cricket fan in the country perhaps wanted that for an icon of the game who's held the game at the, who's played the game at the highest level and has held test cricket very important and has spoken about it a lot. Virat Kohli's career coming to an end with a social media post. There's no farewell, no extravaganza as many would have wanted, Akshata.
All right. Thanks very much, Harshit. Thanks, Nikhil, for joining us with those details. We'll continue getting you all the tributes for Virat Kohli, but we're switching focus once again to the India-Pakistan updates that are coming in. Let's cut across to breaking news. And the big update coming in this hour is that the India-Pakistan DGMOs are currently speaking. These are the Director Generals of Military Ops who are connecting over the hotline. This is the first conversation after the ceasefire understanding. Remember, on the day when the ceasefire was announced, which is on Saturday, that point when the Pakistan DGMO had called our DGMO to communicate that they wanted a ceasefire, it was decided at that point that on 12th May today at 12 p.m. there would be a conversation between the two. And as expected, that conversation right now happening. Shivani Sharma is joining us with more details on this. Shivani, what's really expected from this dialogue? There's no doubt that India is going to raise the fact that on Saturday, right after the ceasefire announcement, you had Pakistan violating the ceasefire brazenly. So that for sure India will raise.
Akshita, this is the first planned DGMO level talks between India and Pakistan after the ceasefire understanding was reached on 10th of May. And this is certainly going to be a strong warning for India's side. Even as we speak, the talks are on. And we know that there is a specific mechanics that takes place under these talks. There are the hotline connections between both the DGMOs of India and Pakistan, and these talks, they were scheduled to be at 12 p.m. today, and as we are speaking, the talks have already started. And Lieutenant General Rajeev Ghai, who's the DGM of military operations in India, he's conveying to Pakistan, as was also being understood from the press briefing, that we are on the highest, we are in the highest state of alert on all our borders, and this happens to be the first call after the ceasefire, because we know that on 10th of May, Akshita, that is Saturday, it was decided that we are to the request of Pakistan, because Pakistan wanted us to talk about cessation of the operations that were going on. So we, on the request of Pakistan, connected to Pakistan's DGMO at around 3:35 on Saturday, that was 10th of May. And after discussions, we agreed to this ceasefire understanding. This is not an agreement, Akshita, that's what we've been saying. This is an understanding of the pause of firing of all sorts at all the borders. But if Pakistan violates this ceasefire, India will be giving a very, very strong response. That's what we also heard. So now we have to wait and watch and wait for the details that will be divulged at the 2:30 p.m. briefing of the DGMOs of the Army, Navy and the Air Force. But the big news is that the DGMOs of India and Pakistan have connected over the understanding they reached on 10th of May.
Interestingly, at the same time that you've had this DGMO level dialogue taking place, there's also a high-level meeting in New Delhi, which the Prime Minister is holding with the three service chiefs, with the CDS and the NSA. So there's a lot of talk, a lot of speculation, Shivani, on what really the steps ahead will be. And the focus on that, the onus on that will be essentially how Pakistan behaves and what really they put out in the coming days. And based on that, we'll know really how India responds or how things will pan out in the next few days.
Akshita, see, for India, the message is very loud and clear that Operation Sindoor is still on. It is an ongoing operation. This is a new normal. We are ready at all times to retaliate with full force. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi, you've seen since Pahalgam attack, he's been into deliberations multiple times. There have been meetings, closed-door meetings. These meetings with the Chief of all the services have been indicative of the fact that the Prime Minister has been taking stock of the operational details of not only Operation Sindoor, but what happened after that. And also India is into deliberations for a plan ahead after Pakistan breached that trust on 10th of May evening when several of those drones were barraged into India's different states on the western border. So we need to be very high on our alert. What can be the strategy both diplomatically and militarily? That is also the subject of these deliberations that going on, and we see the inclusion of not only the Ministry of Defence out there, but the Ministry of External Affairs, which have also been a part of all these deliberations. So we see Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he is continuing with these meetings, with these reviews, taking stock and tracking all details of Operation Sindoor. That is not over yet. This is an ongoing operation, as we've been told.
And the reason we call it ongoing is because if Pakistan resorts to its usual tactics of violating the ceasefire, not holding up their end of the deal, it will lead to a response from India. And that's repeatedly been communicated, Shivani, by our forces as well, who've said that, look, this is an ongoing operation because it's largely hinging upon Pakistan to behave right now, which they didn't on the first night that the ceasefire was actually announced. And despite that, last night, of course, has been calm, which is why right now India is on a wait-and-watch policy of sorts. So at this point, our forces also are on the highest form of alert. Nothing changes on that front.
Nothing changes on our operational readiness front because we cannot trust Pakistan. Pakistan has made it once more very clear that it cannot be trusted or about what happened on 10th of May when everybody was a bit relieved about the ceasefire being maintained. And right there, we saw those drones, we saw the shells being fired at multiple locations along the line of control. So each minute, each second, the operational readiness is high. There is alert on the borders and we are ready for any kind of misadventure or for that matter, any attempt if it comes from Pakistan. Operation Sindoor is on and we'll be hitting very hard. That's what the Prime Minister has been conveying not only to the countrymen here in India, but he's also told the US Vice President J.D. Vance that if Pakistan hits us, we'll hit it very, very hard. So the operation is on, and operation against terror, mind you, Akshita, has been on after Pahalgam attack. We've been seeing the intense operations against the terrorist outfits inside India, outside India, in Pakistan. The intense operations, the coordinated intense operations to look for the terrorists, the perpetrators of Pahalgam attack, and also all those terrorists who are still in the hiding in Jammu and Kashmir. So operation against them is on. Operation Sindoor is on. Prime Minister has been monitoring this operation personally, and almost every day we've been witnessing these deliberations in the national capital.
Okay, so we can just also get you an update on that the meeting at the Prime Minister's residence has come to an end now. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh was there, as Shivani also told you. You had the External Affairs Minister in the meeting, the CDS, the NSA, the three service chiefs. So we'll track closely the big takeaways from that meeting. Also, mind you, at 2:30 is when you're going to be seeing a briefing once again by the Director Generals of the Army, the Navy and the Air Force, much like what we saw last evening. A detailed briefing which took place last evening that essentially busted all the lies that Pakistan was putting out, saying they had not faced any damages, saying that they had dented us. All of that made very, very clear. And essentially the message that came across, Shivani, from that briefing is that we managed to get our target. Operation Sindoor was about hitting the terror camps. That's exactly what we did. Any step post that was because of Pakistan's response, Pakistan's reaction. And that's our message even to this date, that Operation Sindoor is a success, but it's ongoing because we never really can trust Pakistan. And the Pakistan army, the civilian government, of course, they've never really been singing the same tune, which is why we're always ready. We can't afford to trust Pakistan for the next 1 week at least.
Akshita, if we put out that brief yesterday in three broad points, point number one was India has successfully conducted the operation and we've achieved what we aimed at, inflicting heavy damages to Pakistan in terms of its personnel. Around 40 military personnel have been killed, not only inside the line of control, but in other action. Also heavy damages on the runways, the military infrastructure out there. Message number two, we never want escalation, but we are very much capable. That is a warning for Pakistan, and if it dares to look at India and it tries any kind of misadventure, we are ready on every front and will hit you very, very hard. The third very important thing was that we are always on alert. Operation continues. We are not putting our guards down because we cannot trust Pakistan. So very important assurances that came in from the DGMOs of Army, Navy and Air Force were that we've given what Pakistan deserves. The justice has been served, but this operation is on, and the assurance for all Indians that we all are under the highest level of alert because Pakistan cannot be trusted, and any act of terror will be an act of war. We'll be seeing that the Chief of Army Staff yesterday had a very important meeting with the commanders, and he's given out those orders to go all out if you see any kind of violation of ceasefire along the line of control or the airspace on the western borders. So full power to the military commanders to retaliate and give a very, very strong response, because till now we were maintaining certain amount of restraint and our actions were measured, and now we will not do that. We will go all out. We'll give you a very big blow with very strong responses if you dare to violate the ceasefire.
That's right, and we've given Pakistan a glimpse of what we're really capable of with Operation Sindoor and the amount of damage inflicted on Pakistan. There were a lot of doubts out there about really what Operation Sindoor is all about. That was completely cleared last evening in that detailed press conference. I'll get in Piyush Mishra. He's tracking the latest updates from New Delhi, where you've been seeing that meeting at the Prime Minister's residence. It's almost become routine, Piyush, that in the last few days since the start of Operation Sindoor, we've been seeing these meetings at the Prime Minister's residence with the CDS, the three service chiefs, and considering Operation Sindoor is still ongoing, we're still seeing those huddles taking place in Delhi, perhaps to decide the next steps.
Well, absolutely, Akshita. The meeting has now come to an end. The meeting went on for around more than 1 hour, and in this meeting what we are told is that the current situation at the border areas have been discussed. I remember that in this meeting Defence Minister Rajnath Singh was present, and Ajit Doval was there. Foreign Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar was also there, and along with them were tri-services chiefs were present. CDS was also there. So the top officials were present, and it was a high-level meeting which was going on, which looks into the security, concerns of the country. And in this meeting, certainly the discussions on the current situation on border areas have taken place. National Security Advisor, who was part of this meeting, has been briefing Prime Minister since the Pahalgam attack. You would remember that Prime Minister, when he had landed in Delhi after cutting short his Saudi Arabia visit, he was briefed by NSA Ajit Doval, and since then, till operations Operation Sindoor, it was NSA Doval who was briefing Prime Minister about each and every development. Minute-to-minute updates were being given. So we are now seeing as to how these meetings are taking place, especially in the last 4 days. The consecutive meetings are taking place. Before this interval of last 4 days, we had seen how, just before the Operation Sindoor, we saw how Prime Minister had chaired a similar meeting in which all services chiefs were present, and NSA was also there. And in that meeting, Akshata, we remember how Prime Minister had given free hand to security forces, where security forces were told to decide upon the time, target and mode to take actions against Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. After this, we saw also as to how 9 specific targets were targeted, and all the operations were successful. But what is more unfortunate is that that after we took actions against the terror camps in Pakistan, we had also approached Pakistan, briefing them about the actions which we have taken. Since then, we have seen how Pakistan has been continuously trying to not only violate ceasefire, but also it was sending drones, missiles were being sent. We intercepted it, and we took strongest possible actions against Pakistan. So during this course of interval, Akshita, we have seen Prime Minister himself personally monitoring each and every development. And today, as the situation is calm, we cannot trust Pakistan, and looking at that, we have to be prepared, and that is why Prime Minister is chairing these meetings and seeking the reports from the top officials. All defence services chiefs were present. Rajnath Singh, NSA Ajit Doval, all of them were there. And as we are speaking, still we are seeing few officials coming out from the 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. As the meeting has ended, the ministers who were part of this and the defence services chiefs who were part of this are now leaving from Prime Minister's residence. Akshita.
Okay, I'll take this back across to Shivani to put the focus again on the talks that are taking place between the Director Generals of Military Ops of India and Pakistan, the DGMOs. So Shivani, what's the scope really of this kind of a dialogue? If there are more terms, for example, to the ceasefire, is that something the DGMOs address? Is that something the DGMOs also talk about?
Akshita, we must tell our viewers that the DGMO level communication has been in routine. For example, every Tuesday, the DGMOs of India and Pakistan have been communicating throughout since several years. And today, this is a special communication that has been established as a protocol after the announcement had come after on 10th of May, after the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri had announced that there will be a ceasefire understanding. So this is perhaps a review of these 2 days, but what we all have seen that in those 2 days there was violation from Pakistan's side. So certainly that particular point will be raised. A warning will once again be served to Pakistan, and these talks that have been happening shall be communicative. They will be continuous because there is no announcement of withholding these talks that have been in routine for every week. So we see that there will be a regular DGMO level talk, and to review, the reviews will be regular of the ceasefire along the line of control, the international border and the airspace, also because a new domain has been opened by Pakistan by violating ceasefires through the airspace by sending those drones, this barrage of drones in multiple waves. So now when the DGMOs are communicating, there will be an assessment of the situation, the losses that have been inflicted by Pakistan on the civilians of Indian LOC villages and other places, and a warning that have been we've been saying, a concern that have been raised by India that the ceasefire violation has been affecting Indians, and further the communication on the DGMO level shall depend upon what Pakistan does on the LOC on the Western front. If it tries any misadventure again, then India will be retaliating, and the next course of action will be decided after these DGMO level talks and the deliberations that are still going on in the national capital.
Okay, so we'll see really what is the outcome of these meetings. 2:30, there is also going to be a media briefing by the DGMO as well as the DGs of the Navy and Air Force as well. So that will be a very, very interesting briefing because it's the second one after what we saw last evening, where the military, where the three services essentially gave all necessary details and possible details on Operation Sindoor. Like I highlighted earlier, this is an ongoing operation, so there are only certain amount of details that really the military can put out at this point. The rest operational details cannot be revealed at this stage. But Piyush, also, as far as the government goes here, they've been putting out details of the success of Operation Sindoor. But there has been also a whole lot of politics over whether the US mediated the ceasefire or not, over which the government has been repeatedly putting out clarification, saying the conversation was started by Pakistan. The US only aided in putting pressure, nothing more. And there's no doubt that that aspect also would have figured in the meeting that's just concluded at the Prime Minister's residence.
Well, absolutely, certainly that this could also be the part of this meeting, the high-level meeting which just concluded at Prime Minister's residence. And one thing is very clear, and the government sources have also confirmed to us, Akshita, that US did not play any role in brokering this thing. And it was Pakistan which had requested Indian DGMO to have a ceasefire. Why? Because we had inflicted a major damage to Pakistan military installations after it not only violated ceasefire but also tried sending drones and missiles on Indian territory. Remember that there are some political leaders in the country who are saying as to why Trump had to intervene, to which the government sources and the top military sources have also confirmed that there was no role which was played by Trump. It was Pakistan which had requested for this, and India agreed to that. Why? Because we never wanted escalation. We always told Pakistan that if there is any misadventure, then that will be responded accordingly.
Yeah, India
but
very clearly said if Pakistan de-escalates, so will we. But Piyush, Shivani, stay with me. There's another news break that's just coming in that I want to cut across to right now. This This is big news coming in. The Indian airspace is now fully open for commercial operations. Remember, 32 airports were closed largely in North and West India. They've now been opened up. All of the NOTAMs, which is essentially notices to airmen related to the closure of these airports, have been cancelled. It's come on the instructions of the Indian Air Force. So normal aviation activity has resumed across the country. There were parts that were essentially restricted in North India, largely Jammu and Kashmir, in Punjab, Rajasthan, as well as in Gujarat, because of Pakistani drone activity, attempt by Pakistan to strike areas in these states. So India didn't want to take any chances, and we closed down airports in these areas. Now, back to normal 100% aviation activity across the country. This will, of course, help in easing air traffic congestion, benefiting both domestic and international carriers. But it's important to highlight here that as far as flights, Indian flights flying over Pakistan is concerned, that's not going to resume for the moment. All the terms and conditions that we'd put forth, the diplomatic strikes that we'd slammed against Pakistan, that continues to be in place. What this does is essentially it ensures that all the airports that were closed off and the flights that were being cancelled, diverted as a result, all of that is back to normal. Kamaljeet Sandhu joining us with more details on this. A big relief, of course, Kamaljeet, for all the commuters from particularly north and western states where you had these airports being closed off as precautionary security measures.
Well, absolutely. A huge sigh of relief for those people who've been staying in North India, because several of the airports and key of them, Chandigarh, Jammu, what we're talking about, Srinagar, all these airports, now they become fully functional. The message is out and clear that NOTAM has been issued. So it comes as a huge sigh, because remember, there's a huge segment of commuters. And then what we saw was that especially the aerial part of it, especially the North Belt, which came under attack from Pakistan, be it from the drones and from the missiles. Now it sees after ceasefire has been announced, the relief has been provided to people. But remember, this is a fragile one. The DGMOs are meeting. There'll be a press conference at 2:30. So it has to be an agreement, because remember, even when there was tensions, even Lahore airport was allowing civilian aircrafts. And meanwhile, India on a precautionary part had shut down its airports because they anticipated what was coming in from Pakistan. But meanwhile, once the threat is in abeyance, what we know is the ceasefire does stay in existence. But it also means that one has to keep continuously watching not just the borders, but also action of Pakistan. Because remember, what we've seen is Pakistan go back on its promises. But meanwhile, the precautionary measure which was put place, especially in 32 of the airports, most of which are falling in north of India, have now been withdrawn, which also means these airports become fully functional. The notification issued earlier till up to 15th of May.
So fully functional airports now, which means completely normal aviation activity across the country. Thanks, Kamaljeet, for those details. More breaking news coming in. And Pakistan's casualty count in Operation Sindoor is now mounting. A Pakistani commando has succumbed to critical injuries. He was injured in the course of Operation Sindoor and was hurt in the Lahore air base strike, which happened in phase 3 of Operation Sindoor, the Indian missile strike that hit 11 Pak air bases. 40 Pakistani soldiers so far have been killed in Indian strikes. That is something that we've got an official confirmation of. A wing commander also is among those who've died in Pakistan. This comes after India's counter strikes. Again, let me highlight and reiterate, these are counter strikes by India after Pakistan attempted to hit our military bases and civilian establishments to ensure that there's a large casualty count in India. As a result, India hit back, and so in Pakistan, 40 deaths have been reported. All 40 are, in fact, army men, jawans, soldiers, and also a wing commander who's died. I want to bring in Shivani Sharma for more details on this. Shivani, we're seeing the death toll in Pakistan mounting. Unfortunate, really, but this is something that, India warned against, and yet Pakistan continued their provocations leading to these strikes.
Akshita, the count of loss of life in Pakistan in the LOC area itself is around 35 to 40. There are more numbers, as we were seeing that the briefing yesterday divulged and brought out that the DGMO said that the assessment of the number of personnel who've been killed inside Pakistan in the airstrikes on the military establishment still is to be assessed, because we want to bring out details only when they are confirmed. But what we understand that the death toll in Pakistan on these military personnel has been quite high, as we've received an input right now that one SSG commando has lost his life who was under treatment after the strikes of Indian armed forces on Pakistan. But remember, Pakistan is responsible for this because we never escalated the whole scenario. It was Pakistan who was trying to send and focus those targets on the civilian population inside India. India has been also inflicted with a number of personal damage. The number stands at 5. That's what disclosed yesterday's briefing. But the civilian count is also quite high in India, like around 16 to 17 was the figure alone in the Poonch sector. That figure went on, and the figure of civilian casualties has been more than 20 in India and even more. But the casualties of military personnel during these 4-5 days of operation has been 5. That's what has been clarified. But Pakistan has suffered heavy military casualties out there, 35 to 40 alone in the line of control retaliation of the artillery fire that it was opening on the civilians and the military. But India retaliated very hard, and severe damages, not only the Pakistan post but also the personnel of Pakistan in that line of range, line of fire. And this is the added casualty count that we are receiving from those areas which were inflicted with the strikes on the air bases of Pakistan and other military establishments.
Okay, you know, we're not going to celebrate the loss of a life, but having said that, these are soldiers, these are wing commanders who have lost their lives because of quite simply bad calls by the Pakistan Army leadership, and that's led to the loss of over 40 lives, unfortunately, in the Pakistan Army as well. And hopefully that number alone will wake up the leadership to the decision that they made of trying to provoke India. Shivani, I'll request you to stay with me. Let's cut across to more breaking news coming in. And Pakistan's terror state again exposed. The Pakistan Army has put a terrorist Hafiz Rauf's picture on display. Now, Rauf is seen leading the funeral for Lashkar terrorist. And so a US designated terrorist has been referred to as a cleric, as a neta. This is how the Pakistan Army essentially celebrates terrorists, they're heroes in Pakistani soil. And we've seen that repeatedly, whether it's in the kind of pictures that have come in of Pakistani army personnel at the funeral of these terrorists, or for that matter, this incident of an elite terrorist being referred to as a cleric and neta and being hailed with posters.
Well, he is this man. His name is Hafiz Abdur Rauf, who is actually leading the prayers. He's got 3 daughters, son, and he is born in March 1973. You can see his details, family details and everything over here. So we are actually surprised that even today, then again, they have come out with the same thing.
Absolutely bizarre, but Shivani is joining us with more on this. Shivani, it's unsurprising, as bizarre as it is, unsurprising, because we've seen those images of Pakistani army officials attending funerals of these terrorists, laying a wreath on the behalf of the Pakistan Prime Minister, on behalf of the Pakistan Army Chief. So the fact that they're actually defending it, hailing a terrorist as a neta, as a cleric, unsurprising really.
That's what is Operation Sindoor all about, Akshita. In fact, Pakistan has been endorsing, funding and sending these terrorists to India for all kind of harm they have been inflicting on the Indian citizens. And this particular picture that was very open after the Operation Sindoor strikes was of a funeral where this terrorist who happens to be a LAT terrorist who is on the terror list of United States, Akshita, as per record. And this terrorist is being called a civilian, innocent civilian by the Pakistan's DGISPR. So this is the height of fake agenda. and fake narrative that Pakistan is running. The fake iCards that have been shown there in that particular press conference are misleading, misinforming the world. And this terrorist is Hafiz Rauf. He's been a wanted terrorist. He's been involved in a number of terror attacks there, and he is also wanted by US. So this is how Pakistan has been turning truth to lie. Pakistan has been endorsing these terrorists. It has been in a close association with terror outfits out there. And that's what made Pakistan so uncomfortable that after Operation Sindoor, that was a clear precision strike right on the terror outfits in Pakistan. It opened that barrage of drones towards Indian civilians. It violated the ceasefire. It tried to inflict damages to the civilians in the country. So this is once again an exposition of what's going on in Pakistan, and Pakistan is a new name of a terror nexus openly, which is not even now trying to save its face. It's openly saying these are our innocent civilians. The LET terrorists are their new associates. That's what it also accepts.
And these are globally designated terrorists. The man you see on the right of your screens leading that funeral prayer is Hafiz Rauf. He is an LET terrorist. The United States of America has recognized him as a terrorist. He's been involved in several terror attacks. He's leading that prayer in Muridke for other LET terrorists, his colleagues who've died. And there you have behind him the Pakistan Army officials all standing. How does the Pakistan Army justify it? Listen into this.
Now, he is this man. His name is Hafiz Abdur Rauf, who is actually leading the prayers. He's got 3 daughters, son, and he is born in March 1973. You can see his details, family details and everything over here. So we are actually surprised that even today, then again, they have come out with the same thing.
So our strike at different locations in Pakistan has led to casualties, particularly at the Bolari Air Base of Pakistan, where at least 50 have died. Squadron leader Usman Yusuf was among those killed in the attack on the Bolari base. Multiple Pakistani fighter jets were also destroyed. Imagery released by an Indian firm of Airspace shows the damage at Pakistan's Bolari Air Base. The Indian Air Force strike appears to have severely damaged the base. Debris visible along with structural damage. Those are the pictures there of what the airbase looks like now.
Bolari Airfield, aircraft hangar. This is how it looked before, and this is how it looked after the precision strike. Bolari Airfield, aircraft hangar. This is how it looked before, and this is how it looked after the precision strike.
So as you see these images, let's put it out for you on our screens as well. This is what it looked like before, satellite images of the Bolari airfield versus what it looks like now. And as we show you all of these pictures, let's take you through, in fact, what it looked like before and after, and also right now put the focus on some of the claims being made by Pakistan that they've managed to hit India too, and that our bases have been affected. Is that really the case? Let's show you essentially 2 pictures. What the Udhampur airbase looked like before versus now. This is a picture from April 21st. I'll move back a bit so that I can show you essentially what's happened. 21st April. You see that there's no damage. This is what the runway looks like. It's completely normal. There's no damage whatsoever to, in fact, the runway. So this is on April 21st, before all of the skirmishes and what happened. Let's show you right after. There is, however, one point we'd like to highlight here. Look at that particular area. There's work going on at this stretch. And this is, again, let me highlight April 21st, where you see some work that's happening. But otherwise, besides that, the runway completely normal. April 26th, runway work ongoing. Nothing's changed. This is not damage, but it's work that's been happening on the runway since April itself. So all the claims being made by Pakistan that they've hit our airbase too, 100% false. And these pictures have been released by the government because we believe in 100% transparency, which is why we've exposed how Pakistan's claims of having hit our airbase completely false. There's runway work happening, renovation work, which has been ongoing for the last 1 month. So that is the reality of really what Pakistan hasn't managed to do versus what they've suffered. On the other side of a short break, we'll be getting you details of Operation Sindoor, the success of this operation and how we've managed to put a tick on every single objective.
Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Hi, here are the top headlines presented by Motorola. Opposition demands special parliament session. NIA arrests Khalistani terror operative involved in Nabha jailbreak. BCCI to release new IPL schedule soon.
India Today World Exclusive. 2010 India Today Inside Muridke.
A safe haven for terrorists. Pakistan uses terror as part of state policy.
2025 Muridke terror hubs wiped out.
Big story coming in. Muridke has been targeted. Oh my God, the terror epicenter has been targeted. Information just coming in. Indian missiles have struck the Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters. Muridke has been bombed. It's a big, big story. This is India's Operation Sindoor.
The line of clarity with Gaurav Sawant. Only on India Today.
News coming in of the Prime Minister currently meeting with the Air Force Chief and NSA Ajit Doval. A separate huddle taking place in the national capital. Now, the Air Force Chief, Air Marshal A.P. Singh, is in this meeting. So it's essentially a pull-aside. We've had the Prime Minister, the NSA, the Defence Minister, the three services chief, the CDS all present in a meeting. Now, soon after that, in a pull-aside meet, you've got only the Prime Minister with the NSA and the Air Force Chief. That's going to lead to a whole lot of speculation on what's coming. Remember that Part 2 and Part 3 Operation Sindoor's Phase 2 and Phase 3 largely had the Indian Air Force involved in hitting bases, military establishments as well as air bases of the Pakistan Army. I'll bring in Piyush Mishra for more details on this. Piyush will be getting us all the latest updates on this meeting that's currently underway at the Prime Minister's residence. But back-to-back key huddles that are taking place, and that tells you essentially that Operation Sindoor is still very much ongoing. We've been seeing these meetings happen in the last many days. Today too, it's happening. And you'd think that with the ceasefire, the government would kind of sit back. Not happening at all. The Prime Minister still very closely tracking what's happening. And of course, if Pakistan is up to any misadventure, India will be 100% ready to hit back to ensure a fitting response is given to Pakistan, which is why you are ensuring also that our forces are fully fully ready for any outcome that happens in the next few days as well. But the Prime Minister has been holding one huddle after another. If the previous meeting had the Chief of Defence Staff, the 3 service chiefs, the Defence Minister, the NSA, even the External Affairs Minister, now it's a smaller huddle that's happening, in which, interestingly, you've got the Air Force Chief also in attendance. Piyush Mishra is joining us with more details on this. Piyush, this particular meeting will grab a whole lot of eyeballs, because while we have been seeing poolside meets taking place at the Prime Minister's residence, it's always been largely with the Prime Minister and the NSA. The fact that the Air Force Chief alone is part of this huddle will lead to a lot of talk.
Well, certainly it is raising a lot of eyebrows about this another special meeting taking place at 7 local and Maga. And to update our viewers, Akshata, what we are now seeing is that this meeting has now concluded, where PM Narendra Modi and AC Ajit Doval and Air Force Chief was present, and this meeting went on for around 30 minutes. Remember that at around 12 p.m. 2 Defence Service Chiefs had left, along with Defence Minister, and S. Shankar had also left, but Air Force Chief and NSA Ajit Doval did not leave. And now this meeting, which went on for around 30 minutes with PM Narendra Modi, has also concluded. But yes, a lot of relevance of this another special meeting which took place at Prime Minister's residence, in which PM Narendra Modi, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Air Force Chief were present. Remember that Operation Sindoor, which was carried out and which hit 9 specific terror targets in Pakistan. In this entire operation, Air Force had a special role to play. After that, when Pakistan also violated ceasefire and tried to send drones and missiles in Indian territory to reply back to Pakistan and to teach a befitting lesson to Pakistan, it was Air Force which was used, and Air Force pilots had also conducted the strikes there at the military installations in Pakistan. So as we are speaking, this meeting which went on at the Prime Minister's residence has now concluded. So in total, 2 high-level meetings took place. One in which all tri-services chiefs were present. Defence Minister was there, S. Shankar was there, NSA Ajit Doval was also part of this meeting with PM Narendra Modi. And after that, another meeting took place between PM Narendra Modi and NSA Ajit Doval and Air Force Chief Air Marshal A.P. Singh. Now, both the meetings have concluded. In few minutes from now, we will also see a press conference that will be done by DGMO of Indian Armed Forces. They will also be addressing a press conference, and then more details about the entire operation.
That press conference is expected at 2:30, which we'll track very, very closely. Piyush, for the moment, thanks for joining us with all of those details. India's Operation Sindoor clearly has been successful, but ongoing at this point. The top military leadership last evening, in a very, very detailed, elaborate briefing, revealed the key details of this operation. The Pakistan Army is reported to have lost approximately 35 to 40 personnel in artillery and small arms firing on the line of control between May 7th to May 10th, while India has lost 5 braves, unfortunately, in this operation. The Indian military also emphasized that the operation was launched to punish perpetrators and planners of terror, and that the aim was to only target terrorist infrastructure. Our forces have also made it clear that any threat to the nation's sovereignty will be met with decisive force. Forces confirmed that over 100 terrorists were neutralized in the strikes, and among those killed were key operatives involved in the IC-814 hijacking and the Pulwama terror attack. Our forces further stated that several Pakistani fighter jets were shot down during the engagement. Exactly how many? Well, they said that's for Pakistan to reveal. Not just that, multiple air bases, radar stations in Pakistan were also destroyed. They also asserted that the ceasefire deal announced after India's strikes on Pakistan's air bases was initiated at the request of Pakistan.
We have thus far, ladies and gentlemen, exercised, and my colleague Pramod highlighted this, immense restraint, and our actions have been focused, measured, and non-escalatory. However, any threat to the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and safety of our citizens will be met with decisive force.
I would not like to comment on that because we are still in a combat situation. And if I comment on anything, it will only be advantage adversary. So we don't want to give him any advantage at this stage. All I can say is that we have achieved our objectives that we selected, and all our pilots are back home.
In the aftermath of the cowardly attacks on innocent tourists at Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir by Pakistani-sponsored terrorists on 22nd April, the Indian Navy's Carrier Battle Group, surface forces, submarines and aviation assets were immediately deployed at sea with full combat readiness in concert with the Joint Operation Plan of the Indian Defence Forces. You may be aware that we tested and refined tactics and procedures at sea during multiple weapon firings in the Arabian Sea within 96 hours of the terrorist attack. The aim was to revalidate our crew, armament, equipment, and platform readiness to deliver various ordnance on selected targets precisely. Thereafter, our forces remained forward deployed in the Northern Arabian Sea in a dissuasive and deterrent posture with full readiness and capacity to strike select targets at sea and on land, including Karachi at time of our choosing. The forward deployment of the Indian Navy compelled Pakistani naval and air units to be in a defensive posture, mostly inside harbors or very close to the coast, which we monitored continuously. The Indian Navy maintained seamless maritime domain awareness throughout the duration and was entirely aware of the location and movement of Pakistani units. In effect, we had and continue to have good battle space transparency using our maritime domain awareness grid. As you are aware, our response has been measured, proportionate, non-escalatory, and responsible from day one. Accordingly, the calibrated approach considered all options, including the ability of the Indian Navy for offensive action from and at sea. As part of this escalation control mechanism, the application of force by the Navy was planned in a synchronized manner in coordination with the Army and Air Force, the highlight being teams from the three services working closely in an integrated manner. Along with the kinetic actions by the Indian Army and Indian Air Force, the overwhelming operational edge of Indian Navy at sea contributed towards Pakistan's urgent request for a ceasefire yesterday. As we speak, Indian Navy remains deployed at sea in a credible deterrent posture to respond decisively to any inimical action by Pakistan or Pakistan-based terrorists.
With that, I'm slipping into a short break here on India Today. I'm joining you with the headlines in just a bit. We'll also get you all the updates you need to know on the India-Pakistan military level talks that are happening. Military-level talks are underway. Military talks via hotline. Prime Minister Modi chairs meeting, a high-level meet also in Delhi. India's Operation Sindoor a success. 40 Pakistan personnel dead. Multiple high-tech Pak jets shot down. India ready if Pak dares again.
Any threat to the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and safety of our citizens will be met with decisive force.
10 ISRO satellites keep a watch on borders and seashores. Ex-DRDO chief highlights indigenous tech used during Operation Sindoor as Atmanirbhar defense. Indian airspace open for commercial flights. Pan-India commercial flight movement resumes. 32 Indian airports now open back. Virat Kohli retires from Test cricket. Big announcement ahead of England tour. Kohli calls time on 14-year-long Test career. Details still pouring in on the success of Operation Sindoor, and here's more proof of that. India actually struck Pakistan 165 kilometers into the country. Pakistan targets were chosen, handpicked by India, and in precision strikes, we hit them all. In all, 22 military terror targets were obliterated in the 3 phases of Operation Sindoor that we saw. Now, details are still coming in on the impact of Operation Sindoor. The latest confirms that one of the locations that we hit was actually 165 kilometers inside Pakistan mainland. In all, based on the details that emerged last evening in the media briefing, 22 military and terror targets completely obliterated. Let's bring in Shivani Sharma for more details on this. Shivani, at this point, we're still kind of grasping with the impact of Operation Sindoor. Satellite images that are coming in right now show us the impact really on several air bases. And we understand one of the locations that we hit was actually 165 kilometers inside the Pakistan mainland. And it raises so many questions of how we actually pulled that off.
Akshita, initially when these strikes happened right on the Operation Sindoor, the night of 7th May, we saw the initial visuals that were there on the Pakistani media side. Then a day later, we saw more videos and more devastations. Then what we saw was the satellite images, and these satellite images that have now been released by the armed forces themselves, they are showing heavy damages on different air bases, more than 20 different bases, not only the bases, but the different installations, including the air radars there, the hangars there, and the air defense systems in Pakistan have been destroyed, damaged. So this is the heavy damage that has been implicated on these particular military bases in Pakistan after it tried to intrude Indian territories as an escalation. So in a very calibrated, measured and a focused response, India knows specifically where it has hit, and all these places were carefully selected, Akshita. India wanted to disarm Pakistan as it was just targeting the innocent civilians out here. So all these air bases, all these military installations that were being used to send those swarm drones to attack our civilians were thwarted, and the impact is so evident, to which Pakistan has been blatantly lying. But these pictures do not lie. We had eyes in the sky while these strikes were happening. And yesterday, the DGMOs of the Army, Navy and the Air Force have clearly given each proof, each verified picture out there, Akshita, showing the kind of damage, the kind of measured targets that were taken by the Indian forces, the ballistic missiles, on both the terror outfits as well as the military and the infrastructure and installation inside the Pakistani air bases.
Okay, Shivani, just stay with me. Let's put out the picture that's emerged right now of the military and terror-affiliated sites that India has hit in Operation Sindoor, and some over 165 kilometers inside. Which location is that? We're referring essentially to Bahawalpur. You see the picture on your screens right now. We'll be zooming that in further for you. But these are the locations that we've hit. The ones in red are the terror hubs that we hit in phase 1 of Operation Sindoor. And then you have, in fact, the other locations also that are marked out for you. In yellow are the air bases, the military bases that we've targeted. In all, we can confirm for you that there are about 22 sites that we've hit. And these are over 3 phases of Operation Sindoor. All of these, mind you, were successful strikes. The one that I'd like to highlight is the one right at the bottom, the lowermost red that we have highlighted for you. That's Bahawalpur, 165 kilometers right inside Pakistan, where we managed to strike. Taking this back across to Shivani for more details. Shivani, in some of these cases, and while there's been no official communication from our forces on that, when that question was asked, they refused to answer on what weapons were used. But it is assumed that in many of these cases, like in Bahawalpur, the Brahmos was used.
Akshita, we've been breaking that story since yesterday that the ballistic missiles, the long-range high-speed missile weapon systems that were used by India, and Brahmos was one of those missiles that were used during these operations, the operations of May 7th, the Operation Sindoor, and the operations thereafter too. So these long-range missiles that have been used there, the Brahmos, the booster that was found there at in a border area of Rajasthan, is making it very clear that Indian armed forces used a combination of multiple best assets, the modern assets they possess, the lethal missiles and all the other munitions that were used by Indian side also. So all these precision strike equipment was used in combination of the Army, Navy and the Air Force, all the best assets that they possess. The Sukhois that were carrying the Brahmos, they were used, and other fighter jets, including the Rafale, the other fighter jets too were used. The Poseidon of the Navy was all there all the time, all the surveillance, the naval ships, the warships out there that were in a front line on the in the Arabian Sea on the western border. So all these equipment, all these military assets that were utilized were the best in the world, what best India possesses, the transformation we've been witnessing in past few years, Akshita, about being self-reliant. A number of indigenous weapon systems were also used in this, including the Akash air defense missile system. So Brahmos was one ballistic missile that was used in this operation, not only the Operation Sindoor against the terror outfits, but the operation thereafter when the military targets were hit by India as a mark of retaliation and response when Pakistan tried to hit the civilians in India.
All right, Shivani, just stay with me. Even as we're reporting on the kind of damage that India inflicted upon Pakistan, and satellite images show you really the kind of damage reported in many of these sites. That updated map is of all the locations that we've struck, 22 in all, based on the briefing from our forces last evening. But at this point, today the focus is also on the DGMO-level talks. That's the Director Generals of Military Ops, as it was decided on the day that the ceasefire was announced, which is on Saturday. It was announced that on 12th May there would be a conversation between the Indian and Pakistan DGMOs. And that's exactly what's happened. Now, ahead of that, a key meet was also held at Prime Minister Modi's residence, in which you had the Chief of Defence Staff, the 3 service chiefs, the Defence Minister, NSA Doval, and the External Affairs Minister, all present. Now, as far as the DGMO military talks between India and Pakistan is concerned, at 12 p.m. is when that dialogue happened. It's learnt that Pakistan is likely to mention the Indus Waters Treaty suspension and seeking that we stop putting the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. The talks took place over a hotline, and post the talks, the 3 armed forces in India, which is essentially the DGs, the Director Generals of the Army, Navy and Air Force, will be addressing a media briefing today. That's at 2:30 this afternoon. India has made it very clear that they will not restore Indus Treaty with our no rogue neighbor. Sources have told us that India won't share any information with Pakistan and that we will continue to build infra projects on 3 northern rivers. This essentially means that Pakistan will continue to pay a huge price for supporting terrorists who carried out the Pahalgam terror attack. Let's take this across to Shivani Sharma for more details. Shivani, any details that you've been able to essentially pick up on the conversation between the India and Pakistan DGMO?
Akshita, what we were given to understand that these talks were scheduled for 12 p.m. and these talks will be between the DGMOs of India and Pakistan. But what we are hearing is that the issue of the water treaty will not be discussed in these talks at all, because these talks happen only on the military nature of operations. So these talks between India and Pakistan, which will be actually crucial, we'll get more updates on these talks. But these talks will be essentially on the ceasefire violations, and no diplomatic issues will be taken up during these talks. These talks will be the second major dialogue after the ceasefire was announced on Saturday, that there will be no violation of the ceasefire. There will be an understanding. But again, what we are hearing that the issue of this ceasefire violation will be raised by India during these DGMO level talks. We are hearing that there will be a warning given out, and also a statement from India that we are on a high state of alert and no kind of adventure will be taken us by India, and we'll be retaliating in a very, very strong manner.
All right, Shivani, thanks for a moment for joining us with those details. Let's cut across to more breaking news coming in. And at the Prime Minister's residence, it's been one high-level meet after another. For 30 minutes, the Prime Minister met with the 3 service chiefs, the CDS, the Defence Minister, NSA, as well as the External Affairs Minister. Right after that, a pull-aside meeting is happening where you've got the Air Force Chief and the NSA meeting with Prime Minister Modi. So an interesting huddle this, and there will be questions of what really will be the outcome of this meeting between the Prime Minister, the NSA, and specifically only the Air Force Chief. Let's bring in Piyush Mishra for more details on this. Piyush, any details from your sources on this meeting? What's prompted a pull-aside with the Air Force Chief?
Well, very soon we will also be able to know about the details, as the press conference is scheduled at 2:30 p.m. Akshita. But like you rightly mentioned that yes, 2 high-level meetings took place at 7 Lokran and Marg, where PM Narendra Modi chaired these 2 meetings. The first meeting began at around 11 a.m. in which Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, Foreign Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, along with them were tri-services chiefs were present. What we are also told is that other top officials of the government were also present who are working behind the doors. And after that meeting, and the first meeting, Akshita, went on for more than 1 hour. But soon after that, we saw another meeting taking shape, and that meeting was between PM Narendra Modi, NSA Ajit Doval, and Indian Air Force Chief Air Marshal AP Singh. Remember that the second meeting holds a lot of significance. Why? Remember that in these strikes, the strikes those have been carried out by India against Pakistan on terror targets and few military installations, Indian Air Force has played a very, very big role. The coordinated efforts were there. The synergy was there between all armed forces and the executive. But Indian Air Force was very much involved in carrying out these strikes against the terror camps in Pakistan. So this meeting holds a lot of relevance. After these 2 high-level meetings, a big press conference is also there, and in that press conference, more details will be put forth by our armed forces about the entire operation. Remember that one thing is clear, that if Pakistan takes any other further action or any kind of terror activities carried out, then it will be considered as an act of war and will be responded accordingly. So looking at that, the preparations are going on, and we cannot trust Pakistan, as it is a repeat offender. It has been violating ceasefire, and it violated ceasefire despite having an understanding between India and Pakistan the day before yesterday. So we cannot trust Pakistan, and looking at that, other discussions on preparedness took place. But what is more interesting here is that after the one top high-level meeting, the another meeting took place, and more details we will be able to know in a short while from now. Akshita.
All right, thanks Piyush for those details. Let's cut across to more breaking news coming in. Former Army Chief General Naravane sent across a very clear message on all those who are warmongering at this point, saying it's no Bollywood film, it's not a romantic Bollywood movie. And so the former Army Chief has sent across a very important message at these times, saying diplomacy is always the first choice, not war. All those who've been criticizing the ceasefire that's been called, saying India's bowed down and whatnot, hear this message from the army, from the former Army Chief, when he says clearly diplomacy is always the first choice, not war. War isn't some romantic Bollywood movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, war is not romantic. It is not your Bollywood movie. It is very serious business. And war or violence should be the last thing that we should resort to. Again, people are asking that why did we not go for all-out war? But as a military man, if ordered, I will go to war. But that will not be my first choice. My first choice will always be diplomacy.
Okay, I'll bring in Shivani Sharma for more on that. Shivani, such an important message from the General there. A basic one, you would think, an uncomplicated message that diplomacy is always the first choice, not war. And yet it needs to be said right now, because there are so many who are saying, why didn't we, continue to escalate?
See, India has always believed that there should be no war and no harm of the civilians in any kind of military operations, and that's why we always choose diplomacy, and that's why General Naravane has also reiterated the former Army Chief. And remember, former Army Chief General Naravane was the Army Chief when India witnessed a crucial phase of Galwan clashes in the eastern Ladakh sector and multiple developments after that. And India had been resorted in dialogues only even after escalated tensions with China. So these suggestions and the choice of India to stick to dialogue and to diplomacy has always been the first choice. But in case of Pakistan, this diplomacy has always been harmed by a mistrust factor by Pakistan, which has been associated with terrorists and sending terrorists inside Indian boundaries. So this time, India has chosen the diplomacy, but in a very different and a retaliatory manner to inflict damages to the terror camps inside Pakistan. But after which, Pakistan chose to harm the civilians and attack India. And that's why then India had to, yesterday's briefing also, the DGMOs said very clearly that we had no other option left. We never wanted this kind of escalation, but we were forced to take this kind of action when our patience was being tested and the civilians were being harmed, not only on the airspace, but also on the line of control. So Akshita, the former Army Chief General Naravane is once again reiterating that diplomacy is India's choice, but we always are ready to defend our civilians.
Okay, Shivani, thanks very much for joining us with those details. Important message that's coming from the former Army Chief, where he's highlighted that diplomacy is always the first choice, not war. But let's talk about Operation Sindoor and why this operation has been deemed extremely successful. The top military leadership revealed key details of the operation last evening in a detailed briefing. The Pakistan Army is reported to have lost approximately 35 to 40 personnel in artillery and small arms firing on the line of control between May 7th and May 10th, while India has unfortunately lost 5 braves in the operation. The Indian military also emphasized that the operation was launched to punish perpetrators and planners of terror, and that the aim was to only target terrorist infrastructure, reiterating that the only reason they targeted military establishments is because Pakistan attempted to first. And our forces have also said that any threat to the nation's sovereignty will be met with decisive force. Over 100 terrorists have been neutralized in our strikes, and key among them were terrorists involved in the IC-814 hijacking, the Kandahar hijacking, and the Pulwama terror attack. Now, there's also a confirmation that several Pakistani fighter jets were shot down during the engagement. Our forces have confirmed that, though they've said the onus is on Pakistan to reveal exactly how many. And it's not just multiple air bases, but radar stations in Pakistan were also destroyed. Importantly, our forces have asserted that the ceasefire deal announced, after Pakistan dialed and sought that we go ahead and have a ceasefire, is something that's an agreement, not an understanding.
We have thus far, ladies and gentlemen, exercised, and my colleague Pramod highlighted this, immense restraint, and our actions have been focused, measured, and non-escalatory. However, any threat to the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and safety of our citizens will be met with decisive force.
I would not like to comment on that because we are still in a combat situation. And if I comment on anything, it will only be advantage adversary. So we don't want to give him any advantage at this stage. All I can say is that we have achieved our objectives that we selected, and all our pilots are back home. Our fight was neither with the Pakistani military nor with anybody else who's there on the other side. Our fight was with the terrorists. We neutralized the terrorists that we selected to be neutralized, and thereafter we only maintained the air defense posture. However, we were relentlessly pounded by waves after waves, night after night, by his UCAVs, by his drones, and by his other unmanned aerial systems. And that left us with no choice but to retaliate, and yet our retaliation was calibrated, it was graduated, and it was proportionate.
In the aftermath of the cowardly attacks on innocent tourists at Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir by Pakistani-sponsored terrorists on 22nd April, the Indian Navy's Carrier Battle Group, surface forces, submarines, and aviation assets were immediately deployed at sea with full combat readiness in concert with the Joint Operation Plan of the Indian Defence Forces. You may be aware that we tested and refined tactics and procedures at sea during multiple weapon firings in the Arabian Sea within 96 hours of the terrorist attack. The aim was to revalidate our crew, armament, equipment, and platform readiness to deliver various ordnance on selected targets precisely. Thereafter, our forces remained forward deployed in the Northern Arabian Sea in a dissuasive and deterrent posture with full readiness and capacity to strike select targets at sea and on land, including Karachi at time of our choosing. The forward deployment of the Indian Navy compelled Pakistani naval and air units to be in a defensive posture, mostly inside harbors or very close to the coast, which we monitored continuously. The Indian Navy maintained seamless maritime domain awareness throughout the duration and was entirely aware of the location and movement of Pakistani units. In effect, we had and continue to have good battle space transparency using our maritime domain awareness grid. As you are aware, our response has been measured, proportionate, non-escalatory, and responsible from day one. Accordingly, the calibrated approach considered all options, including the ability of the Indian Navy for offensive action from and at sea. As part of this escalation control mechanism, the application of force by the Navy was planned in a synchronized manner in coordination with the Army and Air Force, the highlight being teams from the three services working closely in an integrated manner. Along with the kinetic actions by the Indian Army and Indian Air Force, the overwhelming operational edge of Indian Navy at sea contributed towards Pakistan's urgent request for a ceasefire yesterday. As we speak, Indian Navy remains deployed at sea in a credible deterrent posture to respond decisively to any inimical action by Pakistan or Pakistan-based terrorists.
Based on the briefing last evening, let's run you through the biggest takeaways from the successful Operation Sindoor. The first step, of course, phase 1 of Operation Sindoor was all about targeting terror hubs. And that's exactly what we achieved. We sought to destroy terror hubs, and it happened. 9 terror hubs that were pointed out, that were targeted by our forces with precision strikes, all 9 destroyed and annihilated. Now, besides that, 100+ terrorists have been killed. This has been confirmed by our forces as well, including some of the biggest terror masterminds of the worst terror attacks carried out in Indian soil. Now, also 35 to 40 Pakistani army personnel have been killed. And while we don't celebrate that number, the reality is that this was a result of Pakistan's provocations. We didn't intend to target their military bases, but they chose to attempt to target us, and so we hit back. The hijackers of IC-814, the Kandahar hijacking of Jaish-e-Mohammed, killed in those strikes related essentially to JEM chief Masood Azhar. Besides that, also those who were involved in the Pulwama attack, again, Jaish-e-Mohammed, have been killed in these strikes. So essentially, these are terror bosses who had plotted some of the worst terror attacks. They've all now been neutralized because we knew their location and struck right at them. Now, besides that, several Pakistani jets have also been destroyed. There were a lot of reports that suggested this. Our military last evening in that briefing confirmed the same, though they said the onus is on Pakistan to really reveal how many. We can only confirm that, yes, several Pakistani jets have been downed during, in fact, the skirmishes that had taken place. Multiple Pakistani Air Force bases have been destroyed. Footage of the same has also confirmed that about 11 military bases of Pakistan have suffered damages, largely Air Force bases. Radar stations also have been destroyed. Their air defense system completely compromised right now as a result of Indian strikes. Now, the Pakistan DGMO, which is the Director General of Military Ops, was the one who reached out to India, requested for talks, and only after that did a ceasefire happen, because Pakistan said, we want a ceasefire. And mind you, that Operation Sindoor was only meant to target terror hubs. It was because of Pakistan's escalation that India hit back. Now, on Saturday, right after they said we want a ceasefire and India agreed, they resorted to violating the ceasefire. And we're not surprised, because this is Pakistan we're talking about. But they've been told off about the same, which is why last night was peaceful. All goals related to the mission have been achieved. What was the goal of Operation Sindoor? To target terror hubs. That's been achieved. Also, if Pakistan responds to hit back, that's again something that we did. 5 Indian soldiers, unfortunately, have also been killed in this operation, and that's something our military confirmed. All Indian pilots are safe, with some reports suggesting that our jets were downed. Our forces said that, yes, there's been some collateral, but having said that, all our pilots are safe. Indian Navy also was prowling near Karachi, and this perhaps is what led to Pakistan pushing for a ceasefire. The imminent concern that there could be an attack on Karachi, which would have crippled Pakistan, and how. Operation Sindoor at this point is still underway. And that's something that our forces, the government, have all maintained, that it's essentially dependent on how Pakistan responds, which is why at this point, this operation is still underway. Now, let's talk about what really has come to the fore on Operation Sindoor, post the briefing by our forces. What are the revelations? Let's run you through those one after another. First, that 40 Pakistani personnel have been dead. There was a lot of back and forth on whether Pakistan army suffered any casualties, any toll. Our forces have confirmed that about 35 to 40 Pakistani personnel have died in these strikes, in India's counter-strike. 5 Indian soldiers have been killed. Again, we didn't have an exact number that's been given to us by our forces. We are completely transparent. And that's very clear with the details we've put out. All Indian pilots are safe. There has been some collateral, some jets that have been hit, but our pilots have all returned to their bases completely safe. So no casualties as far as the IAF goes. The Indian Navy close to Karachi port, and that essentially is something that the Navy also confirmed, that their naval exercises were very close to Pakistan, very close to Karachi. We did down multiple Pakistan jets, and this is something I told you earlier as well. The number not known, and we'll see if Pakistan really reveals that. Unlikely though, considering they're not exactly known for being transparent. Pakistani jets attempted to enter into Indian airspace, but we ensured that we completely thwarted that. They couldn't come anywhere close to us. And that's why there was, in fact, some dogfight reportedly in the air. High-tech Pakistani jets were downed. And this is the only revelation by our forces. They said, look, it's on Pakistan to give these details of the kind of casualties or how much they suffered. But they've said these were high-tech jets that we managed to down. Pakistan was the first to push and seek for that ceasefire. Revelation 9 is that India has maintained the operation is still on, and also at this point the reason it's ongoing is because you can never tell what Pakistan's response is. So let's also talk about the objectives of Operation Sindoor. All met, by the way. The primary objective of Operation Sindoor was to go ahead and hit terror hubs in Pakistan, and that was done. In what's been hailed as a watershed moment in India's military and diplomatic history, Operation Sindoor has delivered a resounding success on 3 critical fronts: military, political and psychological. The military success of Operation Sindoor is unequivocal. Strikes on the terror hubs of Bahawalpur, Muridke and Muzaffarabad, not just symbolic, they were devastatingly effective as well. And Prime Minister Modi's words echoed across the nation when he said, "Mitti mein mila denge aur mila diya." Perhaps even more striking is India's strategic use of diplomacy by invoking the Indus Waters Treaty, by linking the treaty's discontinuation to end cross-border terror. India's weaponized a key piece of international diplomacy without breaching it. Government sources have said it will not allow India's waters to nurture terror, and this move is both assertive and legal. Now, why do we refer to it as a psychological masterstroke? Operation Sindoor isn't just about hitting enemy targets, it's also about hitting where it hurts the most. Deep inside enemy territory, from military installations to key air bases, locations that Pakistan considered untouchable. So the phrase "ghus ke marenge" has gone from political rhetoric to military reality. Surveillance images confirm the obliteration of these long-standing terror camps, eliminating not just infrastructure, but also key operatives. For decades, these locations served as the nerve centers of anti-India terror plots. Not anymore.
Operation Sindoor was conceptualized with a clear military aim to punish the perpetrators and planners of terror and to destroy their terror infrastructure. What I do not state here, of course, is the often stated determination of India and its intolerance to terror. It set into motion a very diligent and microscopic scarring of the terror landscape across the borders and the identification of terror camps and training sites.
Our next report highlights what exactly were the objectives of Operation Sindoor. The May 7th strikes targeted terror training and logistical infrastructure, and therefore achieving the Prime Minister's objective.
An unparalleled success in India's glorious war record. A crushing Indian airstrike at Sargodha, Pakistan Army's nuclear weapons storage site. Another lethal Indian air raid at Chaklala, in Pakistan's Rawalpindi, the seat of Pakistani Army. First time ever in India's military history. A massive win, unthinkable till May 10th. India decisively achieved every strategic objective. Militarily, India demonstrated overwhelming superiority. India struck deep inside Pakistani territory, targeting cities and airfields at will. Pakistani counterattacks were neutralized with surgical efficiency. Pak fantasies of downing a Rafale or disabling an S-400, maintaining air superiority remain just that, delusions. In reality, Prime Minister Modi's "Mitti mein mila denge" vow is done and delivered. Politically, the script changed like never before. After Uri, India allowed Pakistan the luxury of plausible deniability. Even post Balakot, Pakistan spun a temporary PR win with the Abhinandan episode. This time, there was no such consolation. Pakistani PM can claim victory, but the world knows whose cities and airfields were bombed. Strategically, India has redefined the rules of engagement. A bankrupt state that once poured billions into nuclear capability post-1971 is now compelled to divert its dwindling reserves towards air defense. The fear that India has struck with "ghus ke marenge" narrative will haunt Pakistan for decades to come. With Sandeep Unnithan, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's get you the breaking news that's coming in. The Director General of Military Ops talks are scheduled for the evening. It was scheduled to take place at 12 p.m., but that's now been delayed. It's been pushed, is what we can confirm for you. The meeting and the talks, I beg your pardon, will actually happen this evening. It will be a conversation via the hotline that's established between the DGMOs of India and Pakistan. Now we're being told that instead of 12 p.m., which was the slated time and the agreed upon time, it's been pushed to the evening now. This is the breaking news that's coming in right now. The DGMO-level dialogue, which was slated to happen on 12th May, as was agreed by both sides on the day that the ceasefire was brokered. It has been agreed will happen today. The time slotted was 12 p.m., but there seems to have been some inadvertent delay that's led to it being pushed into the evening. So we'll connect with our reporters to find out exactly why we're seeing a delay in that dialogue. It's standard practice every week, every Tuesday, for the DGMOs to speak. That's been pushed to Monday instead, advanced to Monday, keeping in mind the current situation. Shivani is joining us with more details on this. Shivani, any reason that's been cited for the delay in dialogue?
See, Akshita, the reasons have not been yet confirmed, but there are developments we've been seeing since morning. There are deliberations at the government level where we see the defense minister, the foreign minister and the service chiefs, they all have been meeting. So there might be a certain decision on the government's part that has been the reason of this delay. The talks were earlier scheduled to be 12 and now they have been delayed by a few hours. The time is not known yet, but they will be happening this evening. That's what we've been conveyed about. But very important out here is that the briefing that was to take place and that was being perceived to be a debrief of these DGMO level talks is still at 2:30 p.m. That means this briefing will be on the operational details of the Operation Sindoor and how India conducted these airstrikes, and not about the DGMO level talks, because the DGMO level talks have been now delayed by a few hours and they are now scheduled for evening. So it's important to understand the whole situation. That is a developing situation. Nothing being divulged at the moment, but yes, there is leadership, the top leadership, that is deciding about India's upcoming stance on Pakistan's ceasefire violation that it resorted to after the ceasefire agreement was understood on 10th of May, and thereafter what we saw was also raised at the highest levels with Pakistan. So supposedly this DGMO level talks, which was to be scheduled at 12, these discussions were to take place, and now when these DGMO level talks have to happen in the evening, we have to see whether this delay is the reason of these deliberations that are happening in the national capital.
Okay, Shivani getting us all of those details on the talks that are expected to take place between the DGMOs. We must also highlight here that there have been several meetings taking place in Delhi, in the national capital, ahead of these talks, with the Prime Minister himself chairing meets with the Chief of Defence Staff, the NSA, the three service chiefs in the national capital. And there's no doubt that there will be a great amount of weightage in that dialogue given to the DGMO talks expected to happen today. Shivani, also importantly in these talks, there is going to be a focus on the road ahead, second on the Indus Waters Treaty, and third on India raising the fact that Pakistan already violated the ceasefire.
Akshita, I want to clarify for the benefit of our viewers that these talks, which are on the DGMO level, they are only a discussion about the military operations. All the other issues, including the Indus Water Treaty, will be discussed separately. They will not be taken up in this particular DGMO level talks. These talks sticks strictly to the operations, the ceasefire violations that Pakistan has been indulging into, and the misadventures it has been implicating India with. So in these DGMO level talks, very important, we need to understand that the ceasefire violation, the warning that comes from India that now any kind of action against Indian civilians will be taken as an act of terror, because the association of the Pakistan's army and the terrorists out there has been exposed once again. So any action from their side to escalate the situation further will be considered as an act of war. Second very important issue that might be raised in this particular DGMO level talks is the preparedness level of India's armed forces. That again comes as a warning that we are alert on at every moment, on every front. So these will be the discussions that will be focusing upon the military operations, particularly of the Indian Army, the Indian Armed Forces for that matter, and Pakistan's misadventure and warning against Pakistan.
All right, Shivani, thanks for those details. We will track the DGMO talks, the dialogue that's slated to happen today. There's been a slight delay. It was scheduled for 12 p.m., pushed now to the evening. I'm slipping into a short break here on India Today. Coming up on the other side, we'll get you details of how the Indian airspace is now fully open for commercial operations.
Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Hello, Moto.
I'm Shivani Sharma reporting from line of control in the Uri sector, where the situation remains tense.
People staying at line of control have started to move out.
Level of tension between India and Pakistan is too high.
There is a sense of fear and there is a sense of apprehension of rising escalation.
The situation along this border also stays tense.
I am Brijesh Doshi reporting from the village which is just 40 kilometers away from the Pakistan.
I'm Sharat Kumar reporting from Jaisalmer.
Right behind me at 800 meters, there's an international border with Pakistan.
We are reporting from Gurdaspur near the international border.
I'm Mir Farid from war zone Jammu and Kashmir.
This is Anmol Nath Bali, Devankur Vadhavan,
Naseem Basir,
Shivani Sharma,
Ashraf Wani,
Kamaljeet Sandhu, Mosmi Singh.
This is Ashutosh Mishra reporting somewhere near the line of control in Naushera sector for India Today.
ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल क्या होती है, अभी आपने ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के अंदर इस मिसाइल के पराक्रम की एक झलक देखी होगी, और नहीं देखी होगी तो कम से कम पाकिस्तान वालों से पूछ लेना चाहिए कि ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल की ताकत क्या है।
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Days after India began Operation Sindoor and struck Pakistan targets to avenge Pahalgam terror, the Indian airspace that was closed for commercial operations across 32 locations is now fully operational. The Indian airspace is now fully open and notices to airmen, essentially NOTAMs as they're called, related to the closure of 32 airports have now been cancelled. The cancellations have come with the instructions from the Indian Air Force. This marks the resumption of complete normal aviation activity across the whole country and across previously restricted areas. This move will ease air traffic congestion, benefit both domestic and international carriers. From Srinagar to Leh to Chandigarh to Jodhpur, Jamnagar to Bhuj in Gujarat, airport services have resumed for commercial ops in several locations.
Good news for flyers, commuters. We are at Jammu. This is ground zero. 32 airports which did not see any operational activity because of Pakistan's misadventure. Remember, this particular airport, which was also amongst the 32, which has been closed for operations up till 15 May. But now, after the ceasefire, what we know is these airports have become fully operational. What you can see is the Jammu airport right behind me. This is one of the busiest airports because remember, this is the fastest way to commute. In that particular sense, what we know is this particular airport has also become fully operational at this point of time. The normalcy, for a sense, did not exist because of what the action really was. But we are here. This is the airport, what we're trying to show you. Remember, security is still very much heightened out here, but clearly a welcome move. This is where what we're telling you is this is a welcome decision as far as residents of Jammu are concerned. With camera person Girish, this is Kamaljeet Sandhu at the Jammu airport for India Today.
हम तो अच्छा देखते हैं, अच्छी बात है। अब हमारे सारा जम्मू जो ऐसे चल रहा है, अच्छा चल रहा है, तो हम ये जो जंग थी ना पाकिस्तान, ये मैं कहती हूँ अभी हुई थी तो बंद होगी, ये भी ठीक है।
मगर एक बार जंग एक बंद भी नहीं होना चाहिए। जो टेररिस्ट ने जो पहलगाम में काम किया है, उसका जवाब मोदी जी जरूर दें।
अभी और दें।
वो जंग नहीं बंद होना चाहिए। जो मिलिटेंट है उनको खत्म करना चाहिए। बाकी ऐसे जो पब्लिक का जो नुकसान हो रहा है वो नहीं होना चाहिए। बाकी जो टेररिस्ट जो बीच में घुसे हैं, जो हमारे देश के गिरदार हैं, उनको भी पकड़ना चाहिए। पकड़ के उनको जेल के बीच में डाल दें, तो जब मार के उनको खत्म कर दें।
Let's get you a status check on the situation in some of the border districts of Jammu and other locations. After the ceasefire understanding, there was no incident of ceasefire violation in the border areas last night. Though on Saturday night, there was. Thousands of people who had fled their villages on the border and took refuge in camps set up by the government were returning to their homes after the announcement of a ceasefire understanding. India Today is on ground getting you reports from areas affected due to shelling and how slowly there's a sense of normalcy.
There's a fragile ceasefire. This is between India and Pakistan, but we are here in Jammu Hospital to speak to several of the injured, those whose houses were destroyed, whose livelihoods were destroyed. We come here at Jammu Hospital. We'll try and speak and get a sense from those people who borne the brunt of Pakistani shelling. मैम ये बताइए, पाकिस्तानी शेलिंग हुई और काफ़ी नुकसान हुआ, बहुत डैमेज हुआ, आपको नुकसान भी हुआ, जख्मी भी हुए. आज इतने दिनों बाद आप कैसे देखते हैं, खासतौर पे उस समय जब सीज फायर की घोषणा कर दी गई है, कहीं ना कहीं अभी भी कहीं डर है या कुछ लग रहा है, या आपको लग रहा है कि एक ट्रीटमेंट है, एक समय है?
डर तो है उसका, उस पर तो विश्वास नहीं है, वो कभी भी कर सकता है, वो धोखा हमेशा देता रहा हिंदुस्तान को, उसका तो डर है.
ये कहते हैं कि हम आगे से ऐसा ना हो, जो भी है इसी बारी डिसाइड हो जाए, पीओके लेना है तो भी ठीक है, नहीं लेना तो भी बैठ के मसला हल हो जाए. ऐसा ना हो कि हर बार सिविलियन टारगेट हो. आज सीज फायर आज से पहले भी होते रहे, लेकिन हर बार पाकिस्तान सीज फायर की उल्लंघना ही करता आया है, तो उससे सिर्फ जानो नुकसान होता है किसका, सिविलियंस का. ये आगे से सिविलियंस का नहीं होना चाहिए. जो भी एक चीज़ है वो डिसाइड हो, जिसका कुछ रिजल्ट आ जाए.
दिस इज वेयर several of the patients are undergoing not just procedures but also there's a whole sort of feeling of those people who stay at the borders, because remember, number of losses in terms of lives, in terms of limbs, in terms of mobility, and it's also a precarious balance at line of control and the international borders. And people here are only hoping that not only a revenge and retribution happens, but also that post that there is this calm with the agreement on ceasefire. They're only hoping that they can limp back to normalcy. And the first way is obviously the path to recovery, but also it depends about relations between India and Pakistan, which hangs in a delicate balance. With camera person Girish, this is Kamaljeet Sandhu in Jammu for India Today.
The restoration of normalcy process has begun in the bordering areas of Jammu and Kashmir. We are here in Surankot town, a small town in a Poonch district. It has never been affected by shelling or any such kind of attack by the Pakistan. But couple of days ago, this area also came under attack when the drones were targeting other cities, other town, other residential areas of Pakistan. And since now there is an agreement of ceasefire between two nations, all it is restoring the normalcy. The people, those who left at town, this town had become ghost town, are gradually restoring its peace, routine life. As people started coming back to the town, we see the vehicular movement started, the shops started, the commercial establishment started, public transport has started, people have started gathering, the law and order taking its place, police forces, everyone alert in the city. And that's explained why this normalcy was important, essential for people of this area being totally adjacent to the town. Many of these places, because of the safety reason, had went uphill towards in their villages, have now started coming back to. And since we see last night, there has not been any ceasefire violations in the bordering areas in Poonch district, all across this belt from Jammu city to Poonch. And that also ensures people that probably this will be beginning of their new normal life. However, there is a sense of apprehension as their people lack faith on Pakistan, whether it will continue to commit on its word and it will not violate the ceasefire agreement. But for now, it's wearing calm. Their life is coming back on track in Poonch district. In this small town, Surankot, with Sanjay Kumar, I'm Ashutosh Mishra for India Today.
With that, I'm slipping into a short break here on India Today. Coming up on the other side, we'll run you through some of the highlights of Operation Sindoor and why it's been declared a roaring success.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Hello, Moto.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 41 and minimum 27 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 30 and minimum 27 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 42 and minimum 30 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 32 and minimum 22 degrees. Chennai, maximum 34 and minimum 26 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 38 and minimum 28 degrees.
Oh, sorry. आतंकवादियों पे गुस्सा पाकिस्तान पे है गुस्सा थमता नहीं है ये गुस्सा समर्थ है तू शक्तिशाली दुश्मनों का लाल है पछाड़ है पहाड़ है दहाड़ है तू सरकार बदले बदले
Good afternoon and welcome. You're watching India Today and I'm Anisha Mathur with the headlines at 2 p.m. India-Pakistan military-level talks to be conducted today evening. India-Pak DGMO talks via hotline. PM Modi chairs high-level meeting with Tri-Services Chiefs and Defence Minister. India's operational Sindoor a success. 40 Pakistani personnel dead, multiple high-tech Pakistani jets shot down. India ready if Pak dares again. Indian airspace open for commercial flights. Pan-India commercial flight movement resumes. 32 Indian airports had been shut. Five of India's brave hearts get emotional farewell. Fallen in the line of duty amid India-Pakistan conflict, families pay final tribute. Virat Kohli retires from Test cricket. Big announcement ahead of England tour. Kohli calls time on 14-year-long Test career. And our big story today, the big Defence Forces media briefing is shortly. Military briefing on Operation Sindoor is expected at 2:30 p.m. India-Pakistan military-level talks are scheduled this evening. India-Pak DGMO talks will be held via hotline this evening. The big story today that we're tracking, the military briefing on Operation Sindoor at 2:30 p.m. Shivani is joining me on this story. Shivani, what are we expecting now? Yesterday's DGMO-level PC had indicated exactly what India has done, the kind of operation we've done, and the fact that we are ready for any further action. What more do we know today?
Anisha, there is a briefing once again at 2:30 p.m. when the DGMOs of the Army, Navy and the Air Force will be briefing about the Operation Sindoor, and what we are getting to know is that briefing will be specifically on the air strikes that India conducted, how they were done, the kind of damages that were inflicted onto Pakistan. And very important out here is that today is the day when the DGMOs of both the nations were to connect at 12. And now this has been delayed by a few hours. What we are getting to know through the sources, Anisha, that there is a meeting that is going on. There are deliberations that Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself is taking on with the Defence Minister, the Foreign Minister and the service chiefs. So we have to wait and watch that now. What has been the reason for this delay in the DGMO talks that were scheduled to be at 12 p.m. as was announced by Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri on 10th of May, this Saturday, when the ceasefire understanding was reached between India and Pakistan, but later we saw how these ceasefire was violated by Pakistan. So now the reason of this delay, is there a different understanding in the government or a different decision that is being taken by the government on India and Pakistan tension that has happened post Operation Sindoor? Or there are some other reasons, some more assessment on the line of control and the international borders, the airspace that need to be checked before the DGMOs connect. So the briefing at 2:30 is a briefing by the DGMOs of all the three services. And later in the evening, we do not know the exact times because the situation is developing. There are changes on a very quick manner. So we have to wait and watch what has been the reason of the delay of this particular connection between both the DGMOs, and the details of which will be divulged out later. The briefing, which is to happen at 2:30, is going to happen, and the details of the Operation Sindoor will be brought ahead in this particular briefing.
Shivani, from what we know so far, particularly in the briefing that was done yesterday, India has been targeting India only targeted military targets after provocation from Pakistan. We were also talking about how Pakistan has been trying to target our civilian areas as well as our military bases. We've also the PC yesterday also talked about the exact targets that we had been considering and the future readiness of our forces. What else are you picking up from your sources about the current situation?
See, the current situation, when we talk about at the line of control and the international border, the airspace close to the western border across the states, the situation has been reportedly calm in all these areas, as also been confirmed by the Indian Army this morning. But what we saw on 10th of May was a breach of trust, the breach of ceasefire, as was escalated by the Foreign Ministry and the Foreign Secretary out there. So today, when the Armed Forces Chief, they are discussing with the Prime Minister, they are also making a mention of this particular fact that Pakistan has been indulging in this kind of misadventure, breaking the trust, breaching the trust, and the kind of press conferences it has been conducting, Anisha. Late last night, there was a press briefing by the DG ISPR. They brought out a number of fake facts about India. They brought out fake facts about the damages they have inflicted onto us, but many of those were tailored images that were being used by the DGISPR. So this kind of attitude of Pakistan is being assessed that shall this understanding be considered as serious, or the Prime Minister along with the service chiefs and the ministers is thinking about something else that should be done. But one thing is very clear, that the Operation Sindoor continues. It's not
Shivani, I'm going to
over
ask
yet.
you to stay on with me. We're getting some breaking news. Let's go to that. And big news coming in, stunning revelation in Operation Sindoor. It has been revealed that India's precision strike was inside Karachi. Indian missiles hit air defense unit in Karachi. The Malir cantonment in Karachi has been decimated. This is the big news that's just coming in on the Operation Sindoor. India has hit the Malir cantonment in Karachi, which has been decimated. Shivani continues to be with me on this. Shivani, what more do we know about this particular operation on the Malir cantonment in Karachi?
See, Anisha, what we know about the action that has been taken by the armed forces together on around 20 and more places of military importance in Pakistan, and Malir cantonment has been one of them. So all these air bases which we have been reporting about, around 11 of them, list of 8 came initially, and 3 more were mentioned in the press briefing later on. There are more infrastructure of military importance, including the Malir Cant in Karachi, where damages have been inflicted by India's attack against Pak's retaliation and its attack on targeting Indian civilians in various places in 26 cities across states. So this is how now the new details are divulging as the time is passing by. We initially got to know and got to see those videos. Anisha, remember the first day after Operation Sindoor, we were getting some videos from Pakistan's media that showed a lot of damage out there. Then we got the detailed pictures, and now the satellite images that have been released by the armed forces in India in the briefings that have been done after Operation Sindoor. There are detailed specifications of these operations that have brought a lot of damage to all these infrastructure. And what we were also told in the press brief, Anisha, that most of these military infrastructure and the air bases have been carefully selected by the Indian armed forces, because these were the ones which were being used to target the civilians across western border in India. So this was a deliberate choice of these places of military importance in Pakistan, including the Pakistan's air bases, the Noor Khan Air Base and Rafiki Air Base out there, the Sargodha Air Base, and multiple others, around 11 of such air bases, the air defense systems, and also Cant areas there. These Cant area has important infrastructure for the mobilization of their units, their equipment. So that has also been targeted selectively by the Indian armed forces, so that Pakistan's army gets weak and it doesn't get to attack our civilians as it was doing.
Well, Shivani, if we go to what the military or DGMO said yesterday, we conducted micro mapping of the targets. We calculated the vectors from where their missiles and their drones were coming from, and that is how the targets were selected. Do we have any further details? As you said, 21 targets were mentioned just yesterday in the press conference by our DGMO and the DGs of the 3 military branches. What more do we really know about why these particular targets were selected?
Anisha, as I was telling you, that there was a specific research that was being done by the Indian armed forces initially when in the Operation Sindoor 9 terror outfits were destroyed through specific measured strikes, precision strikes using the ballistic missiles and other weapon systems. And there were much more information about other installations, other infrastructure that was used for attack against civilians in India, and these were the ones that were chosen by the Indian armed forces for action after they implicated certain swarm drones action attacks on western border side with more than 500 to 600 drones coming in, the swarm drones coming in, which also included some armed drones, the kamikaze drones that Pakistan has bought from Turkey. So all these implications and all these assessments were then done on, and microscopic research was, micro mapping in fact was being done of all these sites. And not only this, Anisha, when these strikes were taking place, the Indian Armed Forces were very much cautious of the fact that there is no harm done to the civilians in that area. And they were the measured strikes, very focused ones, and very important out here that all this was being also recorded with the eyes in the sky that Indian Armed Forces have. So whatever action has been done, it has been taken on record in terms of visuals, videos, the micro maps that have been later studied, and the satellite images which are now emerging of the impact.
As you mentioned, the satellite mapping, you've mentioned satellite mapping, you've mentioned how we've been identifying these particular target sites. From yesterday's press conference, again, if referring to that, we also heard from the DGMO that Pakistan was using civilian aircraft to continue to fly out of Lahore, even as they were launching drone attacks from somewhere close to Lahore. And this is something that we emphasized in the press conference yesterday, that India has exercised extreme caution, even at the cost of some tactical disadvantage, to ensure that there is no damage to any civilian aircraft. On the other side, of course, we've got the Pakistan DGISPR talking about how India has been targeting them, giving out false information, as you just mentioned, about what exactly has India targeted. Are we also seeing, apart from the military action, therefore, some making sure that India is making sure that the message that is going out to Pakistan, and not just to Pakistan but to the rest of the world, is also very clear about what India is doing?
Anisha, India has been very clear and transparent in the kind of operation it has done, not only on 7th of May when Operation Sindoor was conducted. Right after the operations were successful, we got the official release about the places that were hit, about the terror outfits that have been destroyed, the manner it was being done, and very importantly, the reason why it was done. The reason was that in Pahalgam, 26 innocent civilians were killed by these terrorists who have been closely associated with Pakistan's government, Pakistan's army, the ISI out there, and the endorsements how these terrorists have been getting inside Pakistan. And that's why these particular 9 sites have given out enough evidence of the fact that these were the infrastructures that were being sheltered by the government out there, by the army out there. And that's what we have seen, that the funerals of these terrorists, Anisha, have been attended by the military officials out there, and the wreath of Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan was also laid there. So India has selected these terror outfits because it wanted to punish Pakistan for killing 26 innocent people in India, the terrorists in Pahalgam. And thereafter, India never escalated the situation, but it was Pakistan that started attacking the civilians out here. And in all of its military operations, Anisha, the Indian Armed Forces have clarified several times that every time they were hitting away from the civilians in Pakistan, be it the terror camps or be it the army and the air infrastructure inside Pakistan. So India's intention has been very clear. We do not want to harm the civilians in Pakistan. We are not at war with them. We are just punishing Pakistan for its act of terror, first in Pahalgam, and then when it started attacking our civilians across cities on the western border.
Clearly, Shivani, this is the messaging that India is doing consistently on this issue. But moving on to our next big story. Now, Indian forces have highlighted the key achievements of Operation Sindoor. The top officials of the forces for the first time have explained how India carried out precision strikes at the terror hubs. The terrorist training camps in Bahawalpur and Muridke were the pivotal targets that were hit by India. The Air Force executed precision strikes using air-to-surface guided ammunition to ensure effective engagement and minimal collateral damage. Air Marshal A.K. Bharti has displayed the detailed missile impact video at the Bahawalpur terror camp. The Indian Armed Forces also underscored that India eliminated high-value targets such as Yusuf Azhar, Abdul Malik Rauf, and Mudassir Ahmed, who were involved in the hijack of IC-814 and the Pulwama blast. Air Marshal A.K. Bharti also elaborated that the Indian armed forces were confronted with a series of Pakistani drone attacks after Operation Sindoor, which came in waves over our civilian areas and military installations. The robust S-400 air defense system ensured that no damage was caused in the cities. And later, Indian forces carried out a series of precision strikes at different military facilities in Pakistan. Take a look.
And after the strike, this is what has happened. This radar has been taken out, completely burnt. Next slide, please. The Chunia air defense radar, which was taken out on 7th and 8th. This is the radar site. A blown up photograph, once again, on a tower. Not very clear, but what you see very clearly is the after effect after we have struck. The radar head has been completely decapitated. Arifwala air defense radar. In this complex, you see how it looked before, blown up image, and after really blown up. Next. Now coming to Sargodha airfield. Remember, this is one of their important airfields wherein they have a lot of assets, F-16s, other assets which they keep getting, training institutes. And we have stuck this airfield. It is not, if you zoom in here, then one impact point here on the runway and second impact point of our weapon, precision weapon on the runway. And if you see this blown up, repairing going on. Same here. Next. Rahimyar Khan. This is the area we have struck. A deep strike out here and one complex here. So this is how it looked before, and the same. You see a big crater, another crater here, and this complex after strike neutralized. Next. Chaklala airfield, Noor Khan, once again a major air base, a lot of their logistic assets out here. This was the chosen complex that we intended to strike and convey a message. Next slide, please. This is how it looked before, and this is how it looked after our strike. Next. Sakar. We chose the radar site at Sakar. This is the radar site, and after it was struck, this is the aftermath, completely burnt out. Next, please. Aircraft shelter. This is how it looked before the strike, and this is how it looked after the strike. The roof of the buildings completely caved in and burnt. Next. Bolari airfield, aircraft hangar. This is how it looked before, and this is how it looked after the precision strike. Next. Jacobabad, aircraft hangar, and this is how it looked after.
And let's take you now through the details that was given out by the DGMO press conference just yesterday about how exactly India has struck Pakistan. We are showing you the detailed visuals from the photos that have been shared by the DGMO yesterday regarding the Noor Khan airbase, the pre-strike, the target area, and the post-strike target area, how exactly that entire area looked. And at least 2 military support-related trucks have been destroyed. The airbase facility has sustained considerable damage. These are images that were released in the press conference yesterday by the DGMO. We are showing you this and also we are showing you this from the online OSINT sources that have put out these images with regard to the situation now at the Noor Khan airbase of Pakistan. And moving on now, on the Bholari airbase, the Indian strike at Pakistan's Bholari airbase has killed at least 50 persons. Squadron leader Usman Yusuf was among those killed in the attack on the Bholari base. Multiple Pakistani fighter jets were destroyed in the air raid. Imagery released by Indian firm Kawa Space shows the damage at Pakistan's Bholari airbase, and that's the visual you're seeing on your screens right now. The Indian Air Force strike appears to have severely damaged the base, with the debris which are visible along with the structural damage.
Bholari airfield, aircraft hangar. This is how it looked before, and this is how it looked after the precision strike. Bholari airfield, aircraft hangar. This is how it looked before, and this is how it looked after the precision strike.
And India and Pakistan's nuclear infrastructure may also be on India's radar. India has hit the Sargodha Air Base in Pakistan, which is the base that hosts the Pakistan Central Ammunition Depot. Pakistan's Central Ammunition Depot at Sargodha stores the nuclear-capable M11 ballistic missiles. Sargodha is also near the Pakistani Strategic Plans Divisions. The Strategic Division oversees the Pakistani nukes. And this is a very, very important hub because in addition to these, it also is the military transport hub of Pakistan. Sargodha is used also for mid-air refueling of Pakistani jets. And my colleagues Gaurav Sawant spoke to former Chief of Air Staff Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadauria on this. Let's listen in to the former Air Chief who is decoding the Indian Air Force strikes at different Pakistani air bases. Let's listen in.
Are there airfields, all their airfields in Pakistan, air bases, all in the line of fire? I mean, I want you to look at this picture, sir. Noor Khan Air Base hit by India.
Yeah.
This is 7th of May.
So you can just imagine, and all these bombs are on target. Just imagine the damage. That they are on target is shown by satellite picture. The level of explosion and is quite evident here. Therefore, you can just imagine the kind of damage.
I mean, I've looked at...
This is in Lahore.
This is Lahore.
This drone.
This is Rahim Yar Khan Air Base. And we've also seen pictures from inside the
if it goes this deep on the runway, this won't come up in 2-3 days. So right now, Pakistan Air Force would be scrambling to fill up their runways and craters.
So the bottom layer is sand and then layers and layers of cement.
They would be scrambling the kind of damage there. And you can see 2-3 days later, they will take the international media and should try to show that there is no damage. They will be working 24 hours to repair this. This is how they operate.
Yeah. I mean, they did that in 2019 at Balakot.
Yeah. But it took
them 40 days. It took them 40 days there.
40 days.
But what kind of a bomb would have done this? I mean, a crater so deep and so wide.
I won't go into that. They should be rest assured that it's not only one variety of weapons that we can do this. There are many. But this is just a trailer, just a small trailer.
This, of course, this video, again, very fascinating. This came out in the press conference on day one. This would be a drone?
This would be from a drone or a small UCAV. This is apparently from a drone.
That's Sarjal camp and the Mamuna Joya camp, because I was told that the army itself has rigged some of these quadcopters that can just rig and drop the mortars also.
Yeah. This is, but see how successfully achieved. Simple solution, how effectively employed. And the next one was loitering munition. This is a drone-based ammunition.
Fascinating. Now, I want to understand from you, is this imposing costs on Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror? This would be perhaps, if he's lost 11 air bases and radar stations and military sites and 9 terror camps and Murid and Bahawalpur.
Yeah, absolutely imposing costs, and currently more important than cost is affecting their prestige, and so the imposition on their prestige within the country, internationally exposing their nexus with the terrorists, and the fact that they are willing to go this far to support their terrorists, lives lost in terrorists. So I think the cost to that is much, much higher. And in times to come, that is what will hurt them.
And clearly, days after India's deep strikes in Pakistan under Operation Sindoor, now sources in the Ministry of External Affairs have said that Jaish-e-Mohammed was hit the hardest. Remember, India has been targeting terror camps throughout, and the strike, which was nearly 100 kilometers inside Pakistan, was the most powerful of this operation. 9 terror launch pads were destroyed, but Bahawalpur has stood out for both the strategic impact and the symbolism of the entire attack. The precision of the strike and the remnants that have been discovered suggest that India used one of its most powerful weapons, Brahmos, to target the Jaish HQ in Bahawalpur. Among the dead were 10 members of Jaish-e-Mohammed Chief Masood Azhar's family, and sources have said that this targeting was in fact deliberate. It was meant to cripple the Jaish leadership and send a clear message to Pakistan's ISI, which has backed the group for decades now. Remember, Masood Azhar was freed during the 1999 Kandahar hijacking, went on to form the JEM. He was behind major attacks from the parliament to Pulwama, and now that is the base that has been struck by India. And India's Brahmos strike, the big significance, we bring to you what this really means, the 7 points that we've taken out. India's Brahmos missile hit Jaish HQ. Brahmos is the Brahmastra that struck deep inside Pakistan. The precision hit has pulverized the Jaish-e-Mohammed's Bahawalpur HQ. It shows India's firm resolve to decimate terror, and it has been proven that India can do deep strike in Pakistan. This shows India's prowess. The Brahmos missile's air superiority has also been firmly established, and it also clearly shows the Pakistan's air defense failure on a global scale. And Operation Sindoor, remember, is a high-intensity strike that has torn through the terror strongholds deep inside Pakistan and POK. Now, the discovery of Brahmos missile parts near the Pakistan border in Bikaner is fueling speculation about its role in the operation. More details in our report.
Precise, supersonic, ideal for hardened targets. India's Brahmos missile was the Brahmastra in its war against terror. The Brahmos was a key weapon of choice during Operation Sindoor. Unleashed, it hit Pakistan's terror headquarters with precision. Brahmos' primary target was Bahawalpur, the base of Jaish-e-Mohammed, and it was struck with devastating accuracy. The strike eliminated 2 high-value targets, Yusuf Azhar, the brother-in-law of Jaish Chief Masood Azhar, and wanted by India for his link to the IC-814 plane hijacking. Azhar's eldest brother-in-law and in charge of the Bahawalpur Jaish headquarters, Hafiz Muhammad Jamil, also eliminated. Hours after India paused kinetic operations against Pakistan, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated the Brahmos Integration and Testing Facility in Lucknow. He declared, Brahmos is a message in itself.
ब्रह्मोस दुनिया के सबसे तेज सुपरसोनिक क्रूज मिसाइल्स में से एक है। ब्रह्मोस सिर्फ एक हथियार नहीं है, बल्कि यह अपने आप में एक मैसेज है। मैसेज हमारी आर्म्ड फोर्सेस के स्ट्रेंथ का है। मैसेज दुश्मन के प्रति हमारी डेटरेंस का है, प्रतिरोधक क्षमता का है। मैसेज हमारी बॉर्डर्स की सेफ गार्डिंग के हमारी प्रतिबद्धता का है।
Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath also hailed the Brahmos, calling it the Brahmastra.
ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल क्या होती है, अभी आपने ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के अंदर इस मिसाइल के पराक्रम की एक झलक देखी होगी, और नहीं देखी होगी तो कम से कम पाकिस्तान वालों से पूछ लेना चाहिए कि ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल की ताकत क्या है।
Designed and made in India, the Brahmos flies at supersonic speeds with range over 450 kilometers and is nearly impossible to intercept, delivering near pinpoint precision strikes from air, land, sea or submarine platforms.
आज जो हर भारतीय को गर्व होता है जब वो सुनता है कि भारत में बनी ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल अपनी कैटेगरी में सबसे घातक और सबसे आधुनिक मानी जाती है। कई देशों के लिए ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल उनकी पसंदीदा चॉइस बनकर उभरी है।
Debris, including a Brahmos booster and cap, has been recovered near Bikaner, close to the Pakistan border, proving the cross-border launch targeting Jaish's headquarters in Bahawalpur. Despite claims of a high-alert defense posture, Pakistan failed to intercept the missile. Bureau Report, India Today.
It's time now for a short break, but coming up on the other side, the joint briefing by forces on Operation Sindoor is scheduled shortly. We'll be bringing you all the details right after this break. Keep watching India Today.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Hi, here are the top headlines presented by Motorola. Virat Kohli retires from Test cricket to continue in ODIs. Indian airspace is now fully open for commercial operations. Separate meeting between NSA Doval and PM Modi after high-level meeting in PM House.
India Today World Exclusive. 2010 India Today Inside Muridke.
A safe haven for terrorists. Pakistan uses terror as part of state policy.
2025 Muridke terror hubs wiped out.
Big story coming in. Muridke has been targeted. Oh my God, the terror epicenter has been targeted. Information just coming in. Indian missiles have struck the Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters. Muridke has been bombed. It's a big, big story. This is India.
Operation Sindoor has begun. We're bringing you the live footage from the DGMO briefing, the joint military briefing on Operation Sindoor. Let's listen in to what is being said. Remember, this is the briefing on Operation Sindoor, the DGMO, and as well as the DG operation of the three armed forces services will be speaking very, very shortly. You can see on your screens what is happening at the briefing right now.
अविनाश मनुज पर छाता है पहले विवेक मर जाता है पहले विवेक मर जाता है हित वचन नहीं तूने माना मैत्री का मूल्य न पहचाना तोले मैं भी अब जाता हूँ अंतिम संकल्प सुनाता हूँ
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jai Hind. Welcome to this special press conference on Operation Sindoor. Like yesterday, we'll have the opening statements by the three senior officers who are here with me. You all know them well now. However, for those who were not here yesterday, let me introduce you to them. In the middle, we have Air Marshal A.K. Bharti, Director General Air Operations, who will provide insights on the air domain. To his right is Lieutenant General Rajeev Ghai, Director General Military Operations. He will cover the land aspects. And to my immediate right is Vice Admiral A.N. Pramod, the Director General Naval Operations. Following these briefings, we will be having a few question and answers. May I now request the DG Air Operations to commence the proceedings.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday, we had a detailed brief on the successful joint operations that were carried out to destroy the terror infrastructure in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, as well as in Pakistan itself. We also iterated that our fight was with terrorists and their support infrastructure and not with Pakistan military. However, it is a pity that the Pakistan military chose to intervene and bat for the terrorist, which compelled us to respond in kind. दोस्तों, हमारी लड़ाई आतंकवाद और आतंकवादियों के खिलाफ थी। इसलिए 7 मई को हमने केवल आतंकवादी ठिकानों पर ही हमला किया था। पर अफसोस इस बात का है कि पाकिस्तानी सेना ने आतंकवादियों का साथ देना उचित समझा और इस लड़ाई को अपनी लड़ाई बना ली। इस परिस्थिति में हमारी जवाबी कार्यवाही अत्यंत आवश्यक थी और इसमें उनका जो भी नुकसान हुआ, वे खुद इसके लिए जिम्मेदार हैं। हमारी तरफ से हमारी एयर डिफेंस सिस्टम्स देश के लिए दीवार की तरह खड़ी थी और इसको भेदना दुश्मन के लिए नामुमकिन था। This brings me to the point, how have Indian forces managed to minimize the damage to both civilian and military infra in the country in spite of the unrelenting efforts by the Pakistani forces? Most of you and the majority populace within the country have had a lot to say about the layered and integrated air defense systems put in place by the Indian Armed Forces, which includes the assets of the Indian Army, the Indian Navy, in addition to the primary air defense assets of the Indian Air Force. As you all are well aware, this robust AD system comprises of a large variety of multi-layered AD sensors and weapon systems, from point defense weapons like the low-level air defense guns, shoulder-fired man-pads, and short-range surface-to-air missiles or SAMs, to area defense weapons like the air defense fighters and longer range surface-to-air missiles within our inventory. Additionally, the numerous waves of drones and unmanned combat aerial vehicles employed by Pakistan were also thwarted by the indigenously developed soft and hard kill counter-US systems and the well-trained Indian air defense personnel. All this was brought together as an efficient and effective AD environment by the Integrated Air Command and Control System, or the ISCCS of the Indian Air Force, which accords us the net-centric operational capability which is vital to modern days warfighting. While much has been said and written about the newer systems, I would like to place on record the performance and efficacy demonstrated by even the older battle-proven AD systems like the Pechora, the OSA AK, and the LLAD guns in countering the Pakistani threat vectors in the current operations. They were all modern generations, but these battle-proven systems stood the test of time and took them on head-on. Another highlight has been the stellar performance of the indigenous air defense weapon system like the Akash system. Here, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to mention that putting together and operationalization of this potent AD environment has been possible over the last decade due to unwavering budgetary and policy support provided by the Government of India in acquiring state-of-the-art equipment and weapon systems. Some of the results achieved in countering the enemy threat vectors over the last week are now being shown on the screen. Shown on the screen is the probable enemy PL-15 missile, which is of Chinese origin. This missile has missed its target, and you can see the pieces now which are available with us. Another weapon system or weapon which was found was the long-range rocket, the pieces of which you can now see on the screen. We have talked about the loiter munitions and the unmanned aerial systems, and here are some of the glimpses of those systems which we have brought down. To your right, with the right undercarriage or the wheel, you can see is the Yeeha system, which is of Chinese origin with Pakistan. You can see some quadcopters, and you can see one odd Sonka drone hanging by the wire. All these have been brought down by our trained crew and air defense systems. As far as our offensive actions are concerned, yesterday I had already shared some details about the targets engaged by the Indian Air Force. The composite picture of the Indian Air Force targeting so far is now shown on the screen. As you can see, we have targeted the length and breadth of the adversary. I'm sure most of you would have already seen the effect of these strikes on ground, courtesy the large number of videos and photographs being circulated in the media. A few representative examples from the open source are now being shown to you on the screen. In fact, two of them. This is the strike on the Noor Khan Air Base. And you can see the effect. I'm sure most of you have seen the video. I have also picked it up from your sources only. And this is the aftermath of our strike at Rahim Yar Khan Air Base. You can see the massive crater that it has left on its runway. And you can see the pinpoint accuracy of our weapons. So with that, giving you an overview of how our air defense systems have thwarted the enemy drones, their fighter aircraft, their missiles, and resulted in minimal losses on our side. I would now hand over to the DGMO to cover his portion.
धन्यवाद एयर मार्शल भारती। मैं आज आप सब के साथ भारतीय सेना के एयर डिफेंस मेजर्स जो कि हमने इंडियन एयरफोर्स के साथ मिलजुल कर तालमेल में लिए, उसके बारे में कुछ बातचीत करूंगा। इस विषय में मैंने कल भी कुछ टिप्पणी करी थी, लेकिन आज मैं इस युद्ध के अहम एस्पेक्ट के बारे में आपको थोड़ा और पर्सपेक्टिव देना चाहता हूं। हमें एयर डिफेंस ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के एयर डिफेंस की कार्रवाई को एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट में समझने की आवश्यकता है। मैंने आपको कल बताया था कि पिछले कुछ सालों में आतंक की गतिविधियों का कैरेक्टर जो है उसमें कुछ बदलाव आ रहा था। अब हमारी मिलिट्री के साथ साथ मासूम सिविलियंस जो कि अपना बचाव करने में विफल थे, उन पर भी हमले हो रहे थे। 2024 में जम्मू सेक्टर में शिवखोरी मंदिर को जाते हुए यात्री और इस साल अप्रैल में पहलगाम में मासूम पर्यटक इस खतरनाक ट्रेंड के विशेष उदाहरण हैं। पहलगाम तक पाप का ये घड़ा भर चुका था। उसके बाद जो हुआ उसके बारे में हम कल विस्तार में बातचीत कर चुके हैं। क्योंकि आतंकियों पर हमारे सटीक हमले लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल और इंटरनेशनल बाउंड्री को पार करे बिना किए गए थे, हमें पूरा अंदेशा था कि पाकिस्तान का वार भी बॉर्डर के उस पार से ही होगा। इसलिए हमने अपनी एयर डिफेंस की पूरी तैयारी पहले से ही कर ली थी। हमारी इन्वेंट्री में शामिल काउंटर मैन्ड एरियल सिस्टम्स, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वॉरफेयर के साधन और एयर डिफेंस वेपन्स का इंडियन एयरफोर्स के इसी प्रकार के सिस्टम्स के साथ एक अनोखा मिश्रण किया गया। इसलिए आपने देखा कि जब जब पाकिस्तान एयरफोर्स ने हमारे एयरफील्ड्स और लॉजिस्टिक इंस्टॉलेशंस में 9 और 10 मई की रात को लगातार हमले किए, वो इस मजबूत एयर डिफेंस ग्रिड के सामने विफल हो गए। आपके सामने इस ग्रिड को एक तरीके से दर्शाया गया है। आप देख रहे हैं कि इंटरनेशनल बाउंड्री से कितनी लेयर्स, रडार्स, काउंटर अनमैन्ड एरियल सिस्टम्स, उसके पीछे शोल्डर फायर्ड वेपन्स, हमारे विंटेज एयर डिफेंस वेपन्स जो कि काफ़ी सालों से हमारी सेना में हैं। एयर मार्शल भारती ने भी उसके बारे में बात करी। और लास्ट में हमारे मॉडर्न एयर डिफेंस वेपन सिस्टम्स। तो कोई मौका नहीं था कि पाकिस्तान एयरफोर्स ये मल्टी टीयर डिफेंस को पार करके पीछे हमारी एयरफील्ड्स या लॉजिस्टिक इंस्टॉलेशंस को टारगेट कर पाए। ये जो डायग्राम आप अपने सामने देख रहे हैं, ये मुझे एक इंसिडेंट की याद दिला रहा है। और मैं आपको इस उदाहरण के ज़रिए से एक ये एस्पेक्ट हाईलाइट करना चाहता हूँ। जब मैं स्कूल में था तो तकरीबन मेरे ख्याल से ये 70 का दशक था और उस समय इंग्लैंड और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के बीच में, आज शायद क्रिकेट की बात भी करनी चाहिए क्योंकि मैं देख रहा था कि विराट कोहली ने टेस्ट क्रिकेट से रिटायरमेंट ले ली। कई भारतीयों की तरह वो मेरे भी फेवरेट क्रिकेटर हैं। तो 70 के दशक में ऑस्ट्रेलिया और इंग्लैंड की फेमस एशेज सीरीज चल रही थी और उस समय ऑस्ट्रेलिया के दो बहुत तेज गेंदबाज जो कि क्रिकेट हिस्ट्री में बड़ा उनका नाम है, जेफ थॉमसन और डेनिस लिली, उन्होंने अंग्रेजी बैट्समैन और उनकी बैटिंग लाइनअप को तहस नहस कर दिया था। और ऑस्ट्रेलियंस ने उस समय एक कहावत निकाली थी, that from ashes to ashes and from dust to dust, if Thomo don't get here, then Lily surely must. और अगर आप इस लेयर को देखें तो आप समझ जाएंगे कि मैं आपको क्या बताने की कोशिश कर रहा हूं। तो अगर आप सारे सिस्टम्स को पार कर भी गए तो आपको फिर भी एयरफील्ड या लॉजिस्टिक इंस्टॉलेशन या जो भी चीज़ को आप टारगेट कर रहे हैं उसमें पहुंचने से पहले कोई ना कोई इस लेयर्ड ग्रिड का सिस्टम ज़रूर गिरा देगा। जो दुर्दशा कल आपने पाकिस्तान एयरफील्ड्स की देखी और शायद आज भी एयर मार्शल भारती की प्रेजेंटेशन में, हमारी एयरफील्ड्स हर प्रकार से ऑपरेशनल हैं। यही नहीं, पाकिस्तान के ड्रोन्स और वेपनाइज्ड यूएवीज से की गई हमलावर कोशिशें भी इस ग्रिड के कारण नाकाम हुई और जो बचे कुचे ड्रोन्स थे उन्हें हमारे शोल्डर फायर्ड हथियारों से मार गिराया गया। मैं यहाँ पर अपनी बॉर्डर सिक्योरिटी फोर्स की भी सराहना करना चाहता हूँ। उनके डायरेक्टर जनरल साहब से लेकर बॉर्डर पर तैनात बीओपी पर पहरा देने वाले आखिरी जवान भी हमारे इस अभियान में बढ़ चढ़कर शामिल हुए और बहुत बहादुरी से उन्होंने हमारा साथ दिया। उनके काउंटर अनआर्म्ड सिस्टम्स भी हमारे इस मल्टी टियर्ड एयर डिफेंस ग्रिड का हिस्सा थे, जिसके कारण पाकिस्तान की नापाक हरकतों का विनाश किया गया। आपने सुना ही होगा, जब हौसले बुलंद हों तो मंजिलें भी कदम चूमती हैं। In the end, I would like to highlight again that in every single domain that Operation Sindoor has been prosecuted, there has been absolute synergy between the three services. Not only have we, in this endeavor, been fully supported by our government, departments, and agencies, I cannot here not mention our 140 crore countrymen that have stood behind us with their prayers and goodwill, urging and inspiring us to achieve our mission and objectives. For that, we salute you. You are indeed the best. Jai Hind.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. To talk about the air defense capability, the Indian Navy operates as a composite network force capable of simultaneously addressing threats emanating from all domains, that is
air, surface, and subsurface, through amalgamation of advanced sensors synchronized on the combat management systems. In effect, the maritime force is able to ensure persistent surveillance, detection, and identification for a comprehensive maritime domain awareness, including the airspace. Effectively using multiple sensors and inputs, we are maintaining continuous surveillance to degrade or neutralize threats as they emerge or manifest, to ensure targeting at extended ranges. All these are conducted under the umbrella of a comprehensive and effective layered fleet air defense mechanism that caters for all threats, be it drones or high-speed missiles or aircraft, both fighters as well as surveillance aircraft. The fleet operates as a composite force, maintaining a surveillance bubble at extended ranges using advanced radars. Any aerial target that attempts to penetrate this bubble is detected and identified using various techniques and technologies, affording quick and clear distinction between commercial, neutral, and hostile aircraft or flying objects at ranges in excess of the anticipated attack range. The carrier battle group, with its integral air wing, provides the first layer of this layered mechanism. Adequately equipped and trained to high degree of proficiency, our pilots are able to operate both by day and night. In the current standoff, the presence of our aircraft carrier with large number of MiG-29K fighters and airborne early warning helicopters prevented any suspicious or hostile aircraft to close the Karel battle group within several hundred kilometers. अगर मैं सरल शब्दों में बोलूं तो कोई भी संदिग्ध और दुश्मन के हवाई जहाज को कैरल बैटल ग्रुप के कई सौ किलोमीटर पास आने का मौका नहीं दिया. Over the past few years, and most importantly, immediately after the cowardly incident by Pakistani-sponsored terrorist attack at Pahalgam, we had validated our anti-missile and anti-aircraft defense capability in a complex threat environment using cross-platform cooperative mechanism. Our powerful carrier battle group with formidable offensive capability was able to operate with impunity and maintained an uncontested presence in the area of operations. Effectively, it compelled the Pakistani air elements to remain bottled up close to the Makran coast, denying any opportunity to be a threat in maritime space. The Indian Navy maintains a credible capability to detect, identify, and neutralize any aerial platforms that threaten our units at sea. To sum up, the Indian Navy's dominance thus ensured that, should we choose to, we can strike at will. Thank you, Shamdo Varna, Jai Hind. May I now hand over to Director General Air Operations for further proceedings.
Thank you, Pramod. I think a lot has been said, and I would only end by saying and emphatically state that all our military bases, all our systems continue to remain fully operational and ready to undertake any future missions should the need so arise. और अंत में यह मैं स्पष्ट शब्दों में कह देना चाहता हूं कि हमारी सभी मिलिट्री बेसेस और सारे इक्विपमेंट और सिस्टम्स ऑपरेशनल हैं और ज़रूरत पड़ने पर अपने अगले मिशन के लिए तैयार हैं और तत्पर भी हैं. शुक्रिया दोस्तों, और यदि कोई अभी क्वेश्चंस हैं तो हम लोग तैयार हैं उसके लिए.
Ladies and gentlemen, like yesterday, I'll request you to raise your placards, which most of you are doing. Again, repeating it, anything which is confidential in nature will not be responded to. And as you are aware, the DGMOs, all three of them, have got an important assignment after this, which you are also very well aware of. So we shall not be taking too many questions today. I started with both the ends yesterday. Today I'll start from the center, 237. 237. And I'll request you to please maintain, I'll ask you, I'll come to you.
हेलो हेलो सर, मैं आवाज़ आ रही मेरी? हेलो सर, मधुरेंद्र, मैं न्यूज़ नेशन से आपके प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस के शुरू होने के ठीक पहले एक वीडियो हमने स्क्रीन पर देखा जिसमें राष्ट्रकवि रामधारी सिंह दिनकर की कृष्ण की चेतावनी की प्रमुख पंक्तियों को उद्धृत किया गया और सीधे सीधे दुश्मन को ये संदेश दिया गया कि याचना नहीं. मधुरेंद्र, मैं न्यूज़ नेशन से प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस शुरू होने के ठीक पहले राष्ट्रकवि रामधारी सिंह दिनकर की जो कृष्ण की चेतावनी है उन पंक्तियों को सामने रखा गया और कहा गया कि याचना नहीं अब रण होगा, जीवन जय या मरण होगा. कल शिव तांडव स्रोत के जरिए दुश्मन को संदेश दिया गया था और आज राष्ट्रकवि रामधारी सिंह दिनकर की इन प्रमुख पंक्तियों के जरिए ये किस तरह के डिटरेंट को क्रिएट किया जा रहा है, किस तरह के मैसेज को दिया जा रहा है, इसको थोड़ा इलेबोरेट करके अगर आप बताएं तो जाहिर तौर पर ये संदेश और व्यापक तौर पर जाएगा. और एक छोटा सा सवाल मेरा यह है कि ड्रोन अटैक को लेकर जो बातें सामने निकल कर आई हैं, एक बहुत हाइप क्रिएट था टर्किश ड्रोन को लेकर, TV2 और उसके तमाम ड्रोन को लेकर. ऐसा लगता है कि वो हाइप और ओवररेटेड ड्रोन जो है वो भारत में धराशायी हो गया, एक मैसेज दुनिया को चला गया कि अब हाइब्रिड वॉरफेयर में इसकी औकात नहीं बची है.
ओके, ऑल राइट. ओके, थैंक यू। आपने क्या नाम बताया अपना और किस एजेंसी से हैं? न्यूज़ नेशन से। बहुत अच्छा लगा आपकी हिंदी सुनकर और हिंदी कविता सुनकर। तो मेरे कलीग ने अभी बताया, आई थिंक आई मेंशन्ड येहा टू बी चाइनीज origin. I would like to correct myself. The Yeha drones are of Turkish origin. So that comes to your question. All right. चूंकि आपने शुरू किया श्री रामधारी सिंह दिनकर जी की कविता से, हमारे राष्ट्र कवि रहे हैं, और क्या संदेश दिया जा रहा है, तो मैं बस आपको रामचरितमानस की एक कुछ पंक्ति याद दिलाऊंगा, आप समझ जाएंगे। तो याद कीजिए वो पंक्ति जो है, विनय न माने जलधि जड़, भय 3 दिन बीत, बोले राम सकोप तब, भय बिन होए न प्रीत। तो समझदार के लिए इशारा ही काफी। और जहां तक ये टर्किश ड्रोन्स का सवाल है, आपने देखा किस तरह के रेकेज यहाँ पे फोटोग्राफ्स हमने दिखाए हैं, चाहे वो टर्किश ड्रोन्स हो या और कहीं के भी ड्रोन्स हो। हमारे काउंटर यूएस सिस्टम्स, हमारे ट्रेन्ड एयर डिफेंस ऑपरेटर्स पूरी तरह सक्षम हैं, और हमारी देश की जो इंडिजिनस कैपेबिलिटी है काउंटर यूएस के लिए, उसने दिखा दिया है कि चाहे किसी भी तरह की टेक्नोलॉजी आ जाए, हम उसको काउंटर करने के लिए तैयार हैं। और मुझे बोलने की ज़्यादा ज़रूरत नहीं है, आपने खुद ही अपने आंखों से देखा है हमने इनका क्या हश्र किया है। धन्यवाद।
All right. 226.
Sir, Aditya Raj Kaul from TV9 Network. Yesterday, the DG ISPR came out with a press conference, and while you have been continuously providing satellite images and proofs, undeniable proof really, of the airstrikes that happened and the damage that is caused, there's no evidence coming in from the other side. What do you think is there? Are they trying to bluff their people? Are they trying to build some kind of a propaganda for the anger that domestically is there in Pakistan? And secondly, related question, you mentioned Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists. The brother of Maulana Masood Azhar, Rauf Asghar, who was killed. Pakistan DGISPR is trying to build a propaganda where he's saying that Lashkar-e-Toiba, Rauf from Lashkar-e-Toiba was at the entire funeral, but he's saying that he's alive, and they're trying to confuse the people because the two names are similar. The Jaish chief, who is the brother of Maulana Masood Azhar, and the Lashkar guy who was with the Pakistan Army at the funeral. So could you clarify what has really happened? Because there is a lot of propaganda and information warfare happening from the Pakistan side. Thank you.
I think the first part of the question you have answered yourself. I need not delve more on it. Why they are doing what they are doing, information is not forthcoming from there. Obviously, that is expected, and they would do whatever it takes to assuage their people and minimize whatever information about the damage comes out. Here, I would like to clarify, as I said yesterday, our fight is with the terrorists. Our fight is not with the Pakistan military or Pakistan civilians. So that is very clear, and we are very clear in our targeting. So coming to the second part of your question as to what media or what propaganda spin the other side is trying to make out a story. Well, it is for them to answer, and it really is not a military question for us to answer here. We've done our job, we have done what we are expected to do, and that is it.
All right. I'll come this side, 249.
सर, मैं पूनम पांडे हूँ, नवभारत टाइम्स से। पाकिस्तान ने जो प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस की थी उसमें एक सेंटेंस उन्होंने यूज़ किया था कि दिस इज़ न्यू आर्ट ऑफ वॉर। तो हम सब ने देखा, शायद पहली बार देखा कि किस तरीके से आसमान में दोनों एयरफोर्स के एयरक्राफ्ट थे। क्या आप बता सकेंगे, क्योंकि हम जो लगातार जब कवर करते हैं हम देखते हैं 2016 में के बाद ड्रोन का जो पूरा वॉरफेयर में रोल है वो दिखा था, तो हमने भी वो दिखाया, और किस स्तर की ये वॉर थी? अगर थोड़ा आप क्लैरिटी दे सकें कि कितने एयरक्राफ्ट उनके इन्वॉल्व थे, लगभग कितने हमारे थे, क्या इसे अब तक का सबसे बड़ा जो जंग हुई है आसमान में वो कहा जा सकता है? और ड्रोन के रोल पे थोड़ा और ज़्यादा, क्योंकि 2016 के बाद जिस तरीके से बड़ा है।
देखिए, जैसा मैंने कल कहा था कि इस लड़ाई के डिटेल्स अभी हम शेयर नहीं कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि इसमें काफ़ी कुछ ऑपरेशनल डिटेल्स होंगे। कितने जहाज थे दोनों तरफ से, किस तरह की लड़ाई हुई, these are questions of technical details which we may not be able to share firstly, and which we may not be able to share to explain to you the way it needs to be explained. Suffice to say कि yes, ये एक दूसरी तरह का वॉरफेयर था, and it is bound to happen. हम लोग पिछली लड़ाई, अगली जो कभी भी लड़ाई होगी, भगवान करे ना हो, लेकिन अभी यदि हुई तो ये पिछली लड़ाई की तरह नहीं होगी। हर एक लड़ाई जो है अलग तरीके से लड़ी जाती है, और टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवांसमेंट्स हो रहे हैं। हम भी उस एडवांसमेंट्स के हिस्सा हैं, हमारे एडवर्सरीज भी हिस्सा हैं। सो इट इज़ अ कैट एंड माउस गेम, एंड यू हैव टू बी अहेड ऑफ द कर्व to beat your adversary. So that is what is going to happen. So if you ask, was this different? Was this engagement different? Definitely it was different. And a lot of new aspects have come out, but we were prepared for it, we were trained for it, and we were equipped for it. That is the only aspect that I can share with you at this time. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the last question, 161.
Hi, sir. Thank you, sir. Snesh Philip here from the print. So the social media, the Twitter is abuzz with the fact that we hit a site called Kirana Hills, which is supposed to be the nuclear storage facility. And there is a lot of rumors about Sargodha. There are foreign analysts who've mentioned that the Sargodha attack led to certain leaks. Is there a confirmation that we actually hit Kirana Hills, or we were careful of not to do any such thing? Thank you.
Thank you for telling us that Kirana Hill houses some nuclear installation. We did not know about it. Okay. And we've not hit Kirana Hills, whatever is there. Okay. I did not brief in my briefing yesterday. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. As I said yesterday, as I said earlier and yesterday, it is difficult to take everybody's questions, and the DGMOs have to reach somewhere right now. So thank you for coming. Please send in your questions on paper. We will definitely answer them. Thank you.
Right. There you see. That was the press conference of the 3 DGMOs that you just saw, and they were answering all the questions of the reporters. But now, as they said, they have to go somewhere. Let's take a look at what they told us. They basically focused on the air defense capabilities of India, whether it is Army or Air Force or the Navy. They briefed us on how Pakistan targeted India and how the Indian air defense withstood it. We were also explained the different layers of this air defense, the multi-level air defense India possesses. That was explained to us, and it was also told to us that how this air defense is a mix of old and new. Now let's go across to India Today's Shivani Sharma. Shivani, that was a very detailed briefing on the air defense capabilities of India, and also maybe a little bit of myth busting of